Testing, testing. Okay, there's audio. Does this have audio? Nope. Okay, how do I get this on? Oh, there we go. Alrighty. Let's do some. Oh, probably help if I had my camera pointing in the right direction, huh? Not at the ceiling. Hold on a sec. Let me fix that. I guess I can go ahead and have the game playing while I'm flubbing around with this. Hello, everyone. Doing the top 8 games from today while I sort out some more of my bulk. Starting off with Lucas's game, I'm really curious to watch this. I watched part of this game as I was walking to the venue in my Uber, and then caught the very end of the game actually with Lucas. So he sat down next to me, and I was like, "Wait a minute, huh?" And he was like, "Yeah, I already lost." Unlucky spoilers. So yeah, let's jump into the game. I did see a couple turns during this game that I thought were pretty interesting from Lucas's POV, where he had like an interesting decision he could have made. I think he like made the right decision 90% of the time for those couple spots. It was just interesting if he made the other decision, the game goes a different direction, and it's kind of gambling to what the rest of his deck texture looks like. Of note, Lucas had a couple edges in this matchup. For one, he's playing Warmonger's Diplomacy in the deck. He's got 3 of them, which gives Jacob an interesting decision. Which gloves is he going to present? Is he going to go Bullseye or the long draw half glove? I personally think he's supposed to go long draw because the AB1 just doesn't matter. He's playing 3 blues. Like, what are we doing here? Are we actually pitching to AB? That's just not reality. And at the very end of the game, you having AB, I don't think really matters. Typically, like playing an aggro deck, if you're not playing to pitch AB, sometimes you want to play AB still, so the arcane damage deck can't cheat across the finish line. But I just don't think that's reality when you're playing Azalea. You're typically tapping out on your turns when you're swinging for lethal, and Verdance goes way above the amount of AB that you could possibly present. So I don't think it's ever really relevant. Jacob is also only playing 1 Codex of Inertia, which is a really big deal. And there's a couple other deck decisions Jacob made that I think gave Lucas a couple edges, but I can't remember offhand. I might remember in the middle of the game, but let's go ahead and jump into it. Oh, I flub around my camera.
Once the AB not willing to take the gamble on the long draw half glove, we'll see how this first turn plays out under Warmonger's Diplomacy.
Also, Lucas just like sacked him and went turn 0 Warmongers. What an animal.
Has at least a nice
I think Lucas got fairly lucky this game with how things lined up for him. He managed to get to the mid game fully decomposed. Check my microphone. Audio input, fine. Okay, I think is that better? I think I had my microphone on twice. Oops. I don't know how I managed that, but I had 2 microphones on. Let me know if that sounds better. Also, hi Painkiller, thanks for joining the stream. Let's turn my other camera back on so I can get this fixed. Probably move my chat up on my screen so I can actually read it, because now my camera is in the way of my chat. That's not very helpful. Actually, maybe I just put it over here, and then move my OBS over here, and then put my Facebook Messenger over here. Okay, we figured it out.
big arrow here to fire off. It is the Heat Seeker kicking things off.
Okay, I got some new bolts I gotta go through. There's nothing in here.
And also attack with an arrow. No pumps allowed, obviously, because those are non-attacks. However, Rain Raises, which Jacob has 3 of, could potentially come in. Looks like did not have it there. Felling of the Crown blocked with on Lucas's side over there. Not really a card you want to see blocked with that early, but without the graveyard to fuel that card, it had to hit the bin.
Yeah, just fueling things up, getting a couple Earth cards in the bin for future banishes, and then E-Strike going to be the play here. Just numbers, just coming in for 7.
So
Jacob finds an extra card to defend with.
So while Lucas had a very strong turn 0 at the Warmongers, have to point out he didn't find any life gain. No Fruits of the Forest discarded, no Sigil of Solace, for example. Just play the Warmongers, didn't gain any life. Jacob Lance might not be too sad with how the turn 0 went, and he's able to follow it up right now. Release the tension into Bolt and Shot.
I think I'd
Jacob specifically
rather
called out how bad it
Lucas
feels
gains
when
life than play a
opposing
Warmongers, because now you're just playing a
heroes
2-card
start
5.
the game off
Kind of
with
sucks.
a sigil. Dodges that outcome this go around and has a fine start to the turn here with the Bolt and Shot. Coming in for 7, go again.
With no D-reacts from Arsenal as well, Brian. And we saw Lucas opt not to Arsenal the Felling of the Crown, opting instead to defend with it. So you have to wonder whether he potentially has a defense reaction in Arsenal. Looks like there's one from hand coming in to block out, still taking 3. And I love this little moment over here. A lot of times you might be tempted to try and deny the reload. You see the Bolt and Shot reload, you might be trying
The
to
Death
take
Dealer's
it
still
back.
up, so you can't
When your
block that.
opponent hasn't activated Death Dealer yet, that's a fake on hit, because they will always want to activate Death Dealer because they want that card draw.
Yeah, the only situation where you wouldn't is if you didn't have resources, but not the case here for Jacob. Does just load up this Heat Seeker. Very nice curve of arrows here. 7 into 5, solid numbers, but a big on hit here from the Heat Seeker. Could set up that 6-card hand, and you see Lucas with a bit of a grimace on his face as he thinks about next defenses here.
And this is the other strength of New
I
Horizons.
believe this is one of those turns where there's a turn somewhere where he had a choice. I think it was between playing a Felling or a Plow. And I think he was supposed to play the Felling instead of the. I'm sorry, he's supposed to play the Plow instead of the Felling. My reasoning being, I think a card out of Azalea's arsenal is worth more than a card out of Azalea's hand. You just don't want to give Azalea the option to filter more cards with the hero power. Like there's the Dominate, obviously there. But what if the Azalea just doesn't have an arrow in their hand? There's a chance that you just brick their entire round, where maybe them having an arsenal is what bails them out. Either they have an arsenal that's an arrow, or well, now they can go gambling with their hero power and try to find an arrow with it.
Heat Seeker, even
I think that was a really important decision on Lucas's side.
Hit goes through, that card gets
There's a chance that it just doesn't matter, but I think I always value the arsenal more out of them.
Down next to it as well to come back at Lucas with a full 6-card hand on the following turn.
I wonder if Lucas is thinking about maybe seeing some equipment in the mix already. It's not going to feel ideal to use something like the Bark Skin in the spot, but that Heat Seeker on hit is annoying, and Lucas does.
I mean, I don't really care about the Heat Seeker on hit when our hand is Command and Conquer. Wow,
takes opportunity to go ahead and get
we'll just get their arsenal.
But there is still going to be a hit here from the Heat Seeker, and that means, as you said, Pankaj, we load this face up, and we go ahead and put a card face down, and now we're ready to play a 6-card hand on the part of Jacob Lance, but Lucas may have something to say about that with this Command and Conquer.
And remember, Command and Conquer.
I think it's next round because he sets the Plow here.
Like the other Arsenal Destruction card that Lucas also is about to Arsenal, Plow under which you have to pick one of the cards in Arsenal to send to the bottom of the deck. CNC doesn't care. CNC will get rid of all of them. And taking a look at Jacob Lance's hand here, that's 1 3-block in there and 2 2-blocks, Brian.
Awkward for Jacob. We saw Jacob just give up Arsenal to CNC in a previous game. No regrets. Just
that's typically something I also do in Azalea.
It's a little different when you're giving up.
Usually the math breaks out where giving up the arsenal is actually more value than trying to defend it and having a mopey turn because of just the math of how your cards work in Azalea.
Use Rain Razors to give it go again, and then tunic out the face down.
You end up giving 3 cards to the Command and Conquer and then just not really doing anything.
Needing to dedicate 3 cards block out of CNC seems like Jacob Lance is going to have a very, very strong response despite that, and that's off the back of the Heat Seeker on the previous turn, Brian. That's the strength of this New Horizon deck lists.
I'm expecting Lucas will go ahead and sniff this one out. Pretty obvious Rain Razors here, but still a hard decision to be made. How do you want to defend against it?
Yeah, here's a really interesting thing. You know for a fact it's a Rain Razors because opponent chose to not Azalea here. So they can't even juke you oh, I'm just not going to do anything, Arsenal pass. They don't have a face-up Arsenal right now, so the New Horizons isn't active. So you know one of these is a Rain Razors for sure. And that's going to free up the Arsenal and let them reload. It's kind of difficult, though, because he has the Tunic up, so blocking the reload probably doesn't matter, because if he blocks 6 on this, he's just going to go Tunic Death Dealer, and he might just decline the reload on the bolting shot even if you don't do that.
It's between Rain Razors and a Snapdragon Scalers. Looks like it is going to be a Rain Razors.
6 damage leaks through. And now we use that Tunic resource, and here is another Heat Seeker. Good start here from Jacob.
3-card 13 with on hit, effectively draw a card. Very, very
Not
strong
bad.
response after needing to block 3 cards that come out and conquer. Lucas cannot be happy about this. He has, however, found a Felling of the Crown. Now, we don't have a full idea of what his graveyard's looking like right now. I think there's 1 Earth card.
Yeah, I think this is the turn. He has the Felling here, and I think he chooses to play the Felling instead of the Plow that's in Arsenal.
And
Yeah,
CMC
I
is an
think
action card.
it's just the Rootbound Carapace, so would need to add an Earth card to the bin here if he is going to go ahead and get that banish.
But if he does manage
Like,
to do it,
there's a
Felling of the
potential
Crown
that
will
making
come-
this choice you don't get punished, but I think it's a fairly... Like, he plays Azalea, he should know this. That taking the Arsenal matters a lot.
in for its full attack value of 8. However, if you're not blocking out the Heat Seeker, you've given Jacob Lance an extra card anyway, so it kind of ends up being a bit of a wash.
Yeah, Lucas did give us a bit of a fan there. It did look like only a single Earth card. Couple more to defend with here, though.
Couple more 2 blocks, Brian. That is one of the problems in Earth Hero deck building. Oftentimes you have to fit in a whole bunch of 2 blocks. This is 2 cards put to the combat chain as defending, blocking only a total of 4.
So for the second time, Heatseeker is going to go ahead and put a Bolton shot in the arsenal again.
Heatseeker's
So we have
such a
to
good
note,
card.
however, because of Death Dealer's stipulation that your arsenal needs to be empty for you to load, you cannot actually activate it despite having an empty...
Yeah, this is the turn. I think he's supposed to
because
plow him.
he already has a card in arsenal.
Maybe he didn't because it was a yellow bolting shot. So he just didn't see any value in taking this card away from him. He was like, whatever, you can have a yellow bolting shot. This card sucks. But there's a chance that that is his only arrow, and then you plow him, and his turn is just nothing.
Awkwardness of the New Horizon Death.
We're also given this scenario from the Azalea POV. He has a lot of agency over how he wants to deal with this. He can just play through this, like whatever, lose a card, play his turn. But he could also just block the Felling, like give the Felling 2 cards, block, put 1 on the bottom, and then just Arsenal pass and go for a 6-card hand in the next round and say, hey, Lucas, you're playing Waning Moon, not the other stick. Prove to me you can play a 5-card hand because I don't believe you. And I think that's like a really big punish here if he does end up doing that, and Lucas draws a kind of a bricky hand that can't play 5 cards. You just end up making no progress. You get like 2 damage, maybe 3 damage if there's a 2 block on this. And then opponent's next round is massive. And you end up probably IPing next round.
Lance clearly knows how to play around, but does need to be aware of.
Here is this signature Earth card. We've seen it so many times in the feature match area throughout the weekend. Felling of the Crown is going to do its thing, claim a card from Jacob, and no blocks are declared. Life totals are ticking downwards as we move into the mid-game here in our first match of U.S. National Championships. Read the glide path, kicks things off. Jacob going to take a cheeky peek, knock the death whistle revealed on top.
Not a card you want to see on top, because if you Azalea it in, well then you can play it, but you can't Azalea the card that you find of the knock the death whistle as well.
Jacob is going to leave it on top.
Looks like he's going to be... Oh, he's going to play a Codex of Inertia over here. Get that into the arsenal without activating Azalea, so he still has that ability available.
Yeah.
Currently no cards in hand? Or did he discard a bolting shot? He played. So did he discard a card? Because he went no blocks, right? Am I missing something? Where's the 4th card here? Oh, right, he got plowed. Or Felling, duh. There's only 3 cards. Yeah, and like I said, this is actually... This could have been potentially really awkward for Jacob. He, in fact, had no arrow. So if the knock wasn't there, he just doesn't have a turn. And if we did take the... And he probably bought him to pump, because otherwise he would have just kept an arrow here because his hand doesn't play. So it had to have been pump codex, another non-attack action. So if he didn't find a knock on top, his turn was just nothing. And even then, he's still just coming in for like just a reasonably sized arrow that's like manageable if you want to deal with it.
Cost arrow here to come down.
So I think the bolt and shot will be bottomed to the Azalea ability here.
Very true.
For the drill shot, coming for 10 with dominate. However, because Tunic's not up this time, couldn't find a one-cost arrow that could potentially be a little bit more debilitating, but still, 10 dominate, lose a point of armor, especially when that point of armor could potentially be the Barkskin of Millennium Tree, which represents more than just the temper value on that card, could be quite relevant in this matchup.
Yeah, here is the Azalea, now loading up that drill shot, double buffed on the back of the Lace and the Read the Glide Path, 10 dominate. Lucas potentially going into the next turn pretty diseased under inertia and frailty.
And we do know his arsenal is a plow under, so no D-react from arsenal to try and block out more of this drill shot damage. We just need to block it the old-fashioned way, one card from hand. I believe he has found a Sigil of Solace, though, which is a good way to get around the dominate, where you effectively get to block with that card since you just gained the life.
Oh, that sucks. He has to block with another felling.
Point out the decompose on Lucas.
That's pretty unfortunate. So he's only getting to play one felling this game.
The crown on his turn, which is the more aggressive decompose, if you will, where you're trying to get your verdants being online with 3 decomposes. So you go decompose 2 on the first one, and then 3 earth, and then 3 earth following that.
Drill shot getting a lot of value there with that -1 counter on the Barkskin of the Millennium Tree. Lucas going to go ahead and come back with a Heartbeat of Candlehold here.
And he's going to be online really quick. This Plow Under will give him the final 3 Earth cards.
Yeah, this is like actually pretty good for Lucas, despite the felling situation.
Yeah,
like the life totals are going to be very close, and it'll be fully turned online.
Gain is available to these verdants lists while he may be at.
I believe Lucas ends the turn ahead on life.
With this ability set up,
and you're putting the Azalea on a 4-card hand on top of that with no Tunic. So you got one more turn of Azalea, just throwing a normal round.
The life total lead, 26 to
20. Though next round will probably be really big from Azalea because it'll be assumedly a 5-card hand plus Tunic.
And that's the strength of the instant speed life gain. You can play it after your Verdant's ability has been turned on by the Decompose, and he's drawn into another Warmonger's Diplomacy, Brian. This early game right now, coming up all Lucas.
Death Dealer activation here from Jacob Lance.
Pitching a red here for the Death Dealer, not where you want to be on Jacob Lance's side. However, Swift Shot just 4 go again. Strong pickup from the high C set for this Ranger all the way back from Arcane Rising.
Little arrow rich here is Jacob Lance. Maybe time for the Bullseye Bracers to get in the mix. That's scary. That leaves you without AB for the rest of the game.
Could also just go for a take aim, endless arrow, and then...
I'm also really surprised that Jacob wasn't playing Calling the Big Guns. Calling the Big Guns is such a massive buff for New Horizons Azalea.
And try and bait Lucas into blocking this. If Lucas doesn't go for the block, then you can go for the Snapdragon's Bullseye Bracers play.
Yeah, and Lucas does find the clean block here, denying any Bullseye Snapdragon shenanigans, and now it's time for yet...
I wonder if you're supposed to snap it after Lucas commits 7 block on it. That's interesting.
And Jacob's going to try and put together something under this disruptive effect.
So one good thing for Jacob Lance in this Warmonger spot is that his arsenal is an arrow. When the arsenal is a non-attack, that's when your turn gets completely bricked. But because it's an arrow over here, he can send it, and thanks to Snapdragon Scalers, can even snaps it, activate Death Dealer afterwards, and actually send a second arrow. So he could still potentially have a fairly decent offensive salvo despite being under Warmonger's Diplomacy.
Do you think you need to get something like a double arrow on this turn, Pankaj? Is that what the Snapdragon Scaler's best use is in this matchup?
I think with this life totals, you're not super going to get a better spot potentially. It looks like Jacob Lance did pass on reactions though, so he's going to go ahead and accept 2 cards from Lucas Oswald in under the Warmongers. And just going to go ahead and arsenal.
Yeah, so 2 cards not used on this turn cycle. And Command and Conquer comes back from Lucas.
This position we're in right now is actually really good for Lucas. We're not too low. Life totals are fine.
And no blocks.
We're turned on.
Again, just going to go ahead and
Now we're just in the waiting room for a hand that kills him. Like 16, we're pretty close to being in range of just killing him outright. Or having a small combo in our own turn pass Strider's kill.
Real menacing on the wizard side over there. Also thanks to the
He just ends up like getting stuck in the waiting room to go for the kill for I believe a few turns. And then by the time he finally finds it, he's too low, and Azalea's going for like a pretty big turn.
Because of Waning Moon as well, whereas previously it was 7.
A nice turn here from Jacob Lance, though. It's Codex of Frailty doing a bit of reloading here. Going to go ahead and pick up that Bolton shot in combination with these buffs. We're going to get to use everything here. It's going to be Bolton shot into Remorseless.
Laser Inertia over here potentially posing a bit of a problem for Lucas. These Earth Heroes do want to set up a little bit sometimes, so taking that option away from Lucas Oswald should this on-hit go through.
Do you want to call out the...
Oh yeah, that reminded me. I have some gem packs to open. I got some of the brand new gem pack 2 ones.
Against the arcane.
Let's see what we got.
You're right, Punkage. We're getting closer and closer to that very vulnerable life total that we're all so familiar with.
Yellowfin Harpoon and
but here's
Dry Powder Shot
of the New Horizon list. Normally in the Skullbone Crosswrap list, your Enchanted Quiver is always only going to prevent 1. But for example, if this exact same arrow was coming in, but Lucas was lower and might be forced to go for a
gold and
play, Remorseless is face up.
Gold Wing Turbine.
Would actually get to prevent
not the best packs, but still 2 pretty good cards.
From Lucas, 3 cards committed, and it's just going to go ahead and take 1 from the Bolton shot and all of it from the Remorseless. And life totals are even once again. Lucas going to be able to play a 2-card hand with the help of that arsenal, and does have a big Cadaverous Tilling, so just vanilla damage. But as
this is great. We're pushing down the life total this turn. If we draw like a good combo hand here, we can just win.
Well, thanks to double frailty, this isn't as big as Lucas perhaps wanted it to be. This is only 6, which also means that if Jacob takes this completely, he is still out of Strider's range, even through a Burn Baron. Don't forget, Lucas did also take 1 damage playing this action thanks to the on-hit of Remorseless.
Very buff-heavy hand once again from Jacob Lance. Premeditate in the arsenal, couple of buffs and a range.
And you just kind of have to take it, otherwise you don't get a turn.
This Cadaverous Tilling willing to fall to
all right, let's thumb through the rest of the commons I have, make sure nothing was missed in here, and then we'll start sorting.
For both of these.
God, I have so many commons to sort, though. I'm probably not going to sort all of them. I'm just going to sort like a 5 row.
This could be anyone's game at this point, Brian. Already a nail biter.
Maybe just sell the rest as pure bulk.
Of the top 8 at World Tour Las Vegas.
A lot of resources left on Jacob Lance's side. Will have what he needs to potentially put together a big turn here. It feels like it might come down to that Azalea hero ability one more time as we move into the late stages.
I think that's exactly what he's debating, Brian. Opts instead to play out the Premeditate instead of going for the Azalea flip.
Thinking on that Death Dealer activation. Take aim, just going to be the reload here.
Looks like opting for a take aim instead of pitching a card for Death Dealer, which does end up being a wash. If you end up pitching a card Death Dealer to draw a card, you're just you're still neutral, and using a take aim reload instead effectively does the same thing.
Yeah. Well, that's better here because if we draw a card, if it's an arrow, we probably can't play it. So we're really just looking for a pump. And if we're pitching a pump to look for a pump, it's just a wash. And we're probably getting a ponder token this turn. So we don't want to draw an arrow here. Like if we draw an arrow, that would be fine if we didn't have a ponder token, because we just arsenal and just have a good set for next round. But having the ponder token on the board, just like there's no reason to do that. There's heads up.
And does still have
hey Brendan, it's going good. Just started streaming.
In hand here, so we'll see what Lucas chooses.
Watching
facing down
Lucas's dreams fall apart.
It's coming in for an undominated 14 plus potential 2 from Jacob Lance.
And don't forget that Remorseless on hit as well. If this goes
coming through all my bulk right now, make sure no one that helped me open packs earlier this week left anything in here before I start sorting.
Does have a sink below.
I'm just gonna throw this all in the closet and forget about it soon.
Really thinking on the blocks.
And he puts it down just as we try to take a.
Okay, let me check where my audio is coming from. Properties. Default. Yep, it did. Thanks. Good.
Does that sound better? Testing, testing. Does that sound better?
I love this line from Jacob Lance because I actually think Lucas Oswald is holding a plow under, and with this line, you might be tempted on the Verdant side to hold on to your Arsenal Disruption because you see your opponent holding a card. But Jacob Lance
somehow that
with
weirdly
this line
made
is
the
sort of
audio
dodging
for
that.
YouTube sound better for me. I don't know how that works.
Can shift gears at the last second and offer more additional damage here to Lucas Oswald. Lucas thinking about everything now. Goes through the banish zone, thinking about the graveyard, and head goes to hands. Lucas Oswald is uncomfortable.
Sounds quiet now.
Maybe for the first time all tournament in CC, has just been unblemished thus far, sitting at 9-0.
I just increased the microphone to max.
Rounds.
Hopefully that's good.
Jacob Lance, our newcomer,
I suppose I can just move the microphone physically closer to me.
Remorseless for 14.
These live totals are so tight right now. Jacob Lance is exactly 1 out of Storm Strider's range.
Got it a bit closer to me. Hopefully that's better.
Quiver, you could say he's 2 out, but still he's threading that needle right now and putting.
Is the YouTube audio fine?
Such a bind. Let me take a look at his hand right now. Yes. Okay. So two blue earth cards that block and a defense reaction as well in the form of a single, and holding onto the plow under, Brian. This is exactly what it is. He got baited into holding onto Arsenal Disruption, and Jacob Lance just says, here's the rain raises, I'm off in Arsenal.
Incredible stuff from Jacob Lance. A big win there as Lucas Oswald kept resources behind to keep.
That's one of the nice things about the codexes in this matchup. I'm a big fan of trying to play without an arsenal into the Earth Heroes and the Assassins when possible. Just to play around their Arsenal Disruption.
Is gonna ask for that Arsenal away, but Lucas will take a damage from their Morthless.
Stupid codex.
It was a premeditated.
Stupid sexy codex.
Now I feel like it's so rare that I see the premeditate actually make the ponder. It often feels like just 3 vanilla.
It's usually just blocked out. Yeah.
But Plow Under does its thing. Still, Lucas Oswald at 5. Let's not bury the lead here. And I talked about how it feels like maybe the Azalea ability is the thing that will ultimately determine what happens here. Jacob Lance thinking about blocks and only pulling 1 card right now, Pankaj, and we know what that means.
I think New Horizon might come into block here, Brian.
Okay,
he's off at Arsenal already,
sense.
And he wants to stay on the Strider's range, and that's exactly what's happening.
New Horizon is committed to the defense.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things about this list.
And
trying to find that opportunity to block with your hat.
Yeah, he's extended the range.
But yeah, thanks to and if he pitches anything, if there's any floating pitch, if he pitches a blue, which he does have a Knock to Death Whistle in hand right now. Yeah, he gets still AB to Bullseye Braces as well. Jacob Lance knows exactly the life totals that he needs to play around, and that's what you need. That's what you need. We're gonna play against a wizard.
But with Lucas off an Arsenal here, does that Knock the Death Whistle offer a different possibility, Pankaj? It is going to be pitched here. Okay, Death Dealer activation. Swift Shot is nice here. Turn can continue, and the Bullseye Bracers are available. Codex of Frailty picked up here.
Pot of
a
Greed.
Action point light, though. I think we're going to see Snapdragon Scalers come out here, but really wanted to find a pump off the top. Could maybe blind Azalea into it.
Well, he's got Swift Shot now. Face up.
Swift Shot already has go again. Yes, of course. Yes. So, okay, so so you could bullseye in the other arrow, snaps it, and then Codex of Frailty as well.
Sounds pretty good.
Sounds pretty good. And you are giving up your AB, but thanks to Quiver, you're still out of Strider's range.
Yeah, I only played like a game or 2 at my armory, though. I ended up helping teach people more than anything at my armory this week.
Managed to banish all of them away, unless he manages to
one of my locals was picking up Verdants for the first time. So I was explaining some stuff to him of like how to play the deck and like logic trees of why you would do certain things and how to sideboard with the deck.
On this turn, with that Codex of Frailty taking a card out of hand, does Lucas actually have the block value to survive here, Pankaj? Take a look at his hand. Sigil in hand.
Yeah, this is the hand. This is the... God damn it. I finally drew the cards to let me do the thing, but I'm at 5. Just way too late. Like, if he drew this hand at any point earlier in the game, his opponent is just deceased. This hand is so good. He gets to amp for... God, what is that? 3, 5... He gets to amp 10. And then put it all on Oh no. How do we do it? Because we need a source of arcane also. Because one of these pitches is for the hat, so we don't have the money to play the Emeritus Scolding with Striders. It could just be go for a small combo here, and then kill opponent on their turn with Striders. Like, don't use hat. Just play... I guess we set the ramp? Depends if he has a Pulsing Aether Life in Graveyard, I guess. But you can also just, like... Pulse Aether Life and Sigil and Stick set the Emeritus for next round. We're amping 4 on our Stick, dealing an additional 2 pings of Arcane. What was that? 1/1 into 6, which is reasonable. And then we have Emeritus, Striders, Stick, and then Hat for something if we need to. Alternatively, just play the Emeritus here and set the Pulse Aether Life. If we have set the Rampant Growth if we have a Pulsing Aether Life in the bin.
The 2 block.
But it's too little too late. Like, we needed this hand at any point earlier in the game. And if he was, like, a little bit lower in life, we could actually just go for a kill right now. But opponent is at 9. Effective 10 because he still has the Quiver on the table. And he still has cards in hand to AB with if he needed to.
So trying to do the amp math over here, you can gain 4 total between the Sigil and the Rampant Growth Life, which means you'll have an amp of 4. Emeritus Scolding then can come in for 8. Not quite enough. Plume of Evergrowth, though, could have something to say about that.
Can Lucas find a line here? No blocks, says Lucas Oswald. Falls to 1. We know there is life gain available.
He's going to get rid of his AB. No more AB on Jacob Land's side, just the Enchanted Quiver. With the face-up arrow gone from his arsenal, that Quiver is only blocking 1. Jacob Lance is a functional 10.
Here is the Searing Shot, though. This is going to go ahead and force action from Lucas Oswald.
You know what's interesting? I wonder if when you load the Searing Shot, if you're supposed to crack Quiver. Because I think you can crack the Quiver and just float the effect. Just prevent the next 2. In case he tries killing us with Striders here. I wonder if that's the play. Probably not, but...
Oswald at only 1.
It's an interesting thought.
He knows there's no Rain Razors, though. He was vulnerable to Rain Razors for a moment over there, Brian, when he declared no blocks on a Swift Shot. We've only seen 2 Rain Razors. Jacob Lance is running all 3. So he knows there's no more Rain Razors.
That's the real juice. Don't Rain Razors on the last attack. Rain Razors this one.
Has been used.
Just juice Lucas.
But you know Jacob Lance loves his codexes.
Lucas is doing the math here. Thinking about blocks. We saw him reach for the Stonewall Gauntlet. Still has a point of defense left on that Bark Skin. Has a 3 block. Could cover here. That would take the Emeritus Scolding out of hand.
Yeah, I think Lucas is fine here if he didn't have the Codex. If it was like an arrow, Lucas is sick. The fact that he can snap Codex and then force Lucas to discard a card is just game over.
A lot more comfortable just expending his hold. I think he's already going to do it anyway.
Agreed. And Lucas Oswald reaches for the equipment and the Cadaverous Tilling.
So because of the Stonewall Gauntlet
ability,
is blocking this exactly, keeping the Emeritus in hand, which is the Arcane Damage spell. But this is the other blue in his hand, so a little bit resource line that hand remaining. We're going to see a Snapdragon Scalers.
And there is the Snapdragon Scalers, and now we know the card that is coming from Jacob Lance. I've actually read it now. It is Codex of Frailty. It's going to go ahead and get another arrow for Jacob.
Just absolutely
and the turn
backbreaking.
will continue, and it will also take a card.
I think you're supposed to go for Searing
Oswald.
Shot here. Oh, you have dollars floating, so I guess you go for Remorseless is just more.
Also another block 3.
Or Heat Seeker?
Well, 4,
I guess we have a Ponder token, might not want to Heat Seek.
Lance
No,
has the one
whatever.
lost
If we hit an arrow,
Has
we
the
can just choose not to
Remorseless here.
Arsenal.
Lucas now thinking on the discard.
I think you have to discard Rampant Growth Life. It's not going to do anything here. In this hand, it's going to gain you 1. You discard that, but you can still survive the Remorseless by blocking Emeritus and Surge of Solace.
And the thing that sucks here, too, is Lucas getting an attack
Just
just, like, is a brick
Especially
for the
with
rest
the
of the game,
Taunt,
because he doesn't
once
want to
again,
throw an
with the
attack
glances
ever
out.
again.
Benefit
He
is
just
there will be
wants to
no
set, like, an
AoE on the
arcane
next
or a
cycle
life gain
for
card
Lucas.
to go for the
That's
combo.
something, but still, Jacob Lance is at 9.
A
with
physical
Quiver
attack is
at
just
the
useless
ready.
to him. So this
Yeah,
codex is
killing
just
the pick for
actually a
Lucas
draw
also, and
3.
Rampant Growth Life is the discard as well. Remorseless coming in for 5.
There is the sigil. Go back up to 4.
No Verdant's Ping because this is the opponent's turn. And blocking of 4. Thanks to Embodiment of Earth.
That's true. I missed that one. So Lucas does stabilize at 2 here. But once again, Jacob Lance going to come back with a full grip and an arsenal. Nothing for Lucas to do on his turn except draw up.
And Jacob knows that's not a defense reaction in Arsenal. You mentioned the Azalea ability. If that comes in, that could spell doom for Lucas here at top 8. However, life gain is a thing that Verdant has a lot of access to.
You know,
Fruits of the Forest.
Actually, let's go back. Is there another play Lucas could have gone for here? Is there a possibility we're supposed to break Striders so that way we don't discard anything to the Codex? Okay, so at this point Lucas has 3 cards. It's Sigil, Ramp, and Emeritus. Sigil, Ramp, Emeritus. Are we able to catch a glimpse of Lucas's graveyard from the Codex?
And it will also take a card from Lucas Oswald.
Sigil of Solace represents an effective block 3. Emeritus Golden also another block 3. Well, block 4 because thanks to Embodiment of Earth.
And Jacob Lance has the 1-cost
It doesn't look like we can really get a look at his grave.
Here. Lucas.
Let's assume we have any card in our deck in our graveyard right now, just for shits and giggles. We're just like a little short. If we didn't block the Searing Shot, we would have had another blue. Opponent has 1 card in hand here. Sigil Ramp is Amp 4. Pick up Pulse Aether Life. Pitch Emeritus to Striders. Play Pulse and Aether Life. So now we can amp 5. Oh, it's exactly 9. An opponent still has the quiver on the table. Am I doing my math right? Sigil for 3, Ramp for 1, Pulse for 1, amping 5. Is there any way to stick instead? To stick, we have to Striders no matter what. And I don't think there's any card we can pick up with Plume that costs 0 that we could Striders in. I don't think there's a legal card we can do that with. We could just not Plume. we could just play the Emeritus out with the Striders. I think that's less damage, though. Yeah, that's just 4. We're getting 1 less amp there, so we're dealing 8 instead of 9. Yeah, we're literally just 1 short. I don't think there's any way to find 1 more damage here. We just need, like, 1 more card so we can get our weapon in. Unfortunate.
Scalers, and now we know the card as on the discard.
The token once again.
Card at 4.
No Verdant's ping because this is the opponent's
Oh,
turn.
very unfortunate.
And blocking of 4. Thanks to embodiment of Earth.
That's true. I missed that one. So Lucas does stabilize at 2 here. But once again, Jacob Lance going to come back with a full grip and an arsenal. Nothing for Lucas to do on his turn except draw up.
And Jacob knows that's not the defense reaction in Arsenal. You mentioned the Azalea ability. If that comes in, that could spell doom for Lucas here at top 8. However, life gain is a thing that Verdant has a lot of access to. Fruits of the Forest, Soldiers of Solace, for example, can try and skirt around the Dominate if Lucas Oswald has drawn those up.
2 pumps and an amplifying arrow in hand. Shelter from the storm.
That is a lot of life gain. Sigil of Solace, Fruits of the Forest, that's 5 life gain that can go around Dominate. Shelter from the Storm can be discarded as well.
Jacob Lance has activated Azalea. Finds the Searing shot here off the top, so we have the Dominate now. We premeditate, we lace with Frailty, and we come in with a giant dominated arrow. And does Lucas Oswald have just enough life gain to survive, or are we about to see Jacob Lance moving on?
He has 5 life gain from Fruits and Sigil, can block forward Rootbound, and then discard Shelter to actually just cover this. Well, you won't cover it, just the on-hit will still go through, but you will still block a lot.
And maybe...
Wait, hang on. Life gain doesn't stop the on-hit. I'm wondering whether the math makes it so the on-hit actually...
Yeah, I believe Lucas is just deceased.
Yeah, no prevention from the Shelter there.
So
on the loss of life.
So you're effectively, you're blocking 5 between Rootbound and Shelter. You're blocking 5, and you're gaining 5 from the life gain. So you're going up to 7, but you're still taking 5 from the Searing Shot and losing 1 life. So Lucas should be able to survive at 1.
Wonder if there's anything to do with Plume here. Can that potentially get you a little bit more breathing room?
Of course, there's a question of the 3rd Rain Razors as well. It's just arrows on Jacob Lance's side.
Yeah, all Lucas can do is what his hand is capable of. He can't play around things like Rain Razors at this point. It is about survival. Says no blocks, has the react here. And we'll go to 1 and we'll face down a very similar situation on the next turn. Jacob Lance going to be able to arsenal an arrow here. One more time, Lucas Oswald will be put to the test by the hand of Jacob Lance. Jacob even going to pick up a Ponder here to get more options for that arsenal.
Did he pick up a pump? He did pick up a pump. Arsenal amplifying arrow. Lucas Oswald got away with a bit of murder there, Brian. Had just the amount of life gain he needed to survive that onslaught.
Knock the death whistle from Jacob Lance. He throws it down. He's going to look for an arrow. What's the hand from Lucas Oswald?
How much life gain do we have? Fruits of First. Burn Bear, pulsing Aether Life.
He's so close to actually winning with this hand too, which is funny. I think if he had another blue, he could actually win here. The problem is he has like 2 spells. He needs one of these to be a blue. Because he needs to go pitch a blue to play spell. Pitch a blue to stick plus Striders. and then pitch a blue to crack his hat, so that way he can gain 1 amp 1, and then he has 10 damage. But both of these being this kind of bricks him. I guess he needs 3 blues to do it that way. If this is a blue, since he does gain another life... what if this is a blue? We pitch a blue to crack hat, grab a ramp, play ramp, crack Striders, pulse Aether life. That's covered by a blue. Discard fruits. We're gaining 4. Dealing 8. Not enough. We gotta get the stick in to be enough. I guess pitch fruits to stick is just better. That's 3 instead of 2. So that'd be 9. Still not enough. Oh, unfortunate. He's so... Each of these turns, he's just like a hair off.
A rampant growth player with the plume? I think he's short on some resources.
I believe he is, especially based on his face, Punkage. I think he's exactly 1 resource short from doing it here.
That's what you hear from every wizard player, Brian. If only I had 1 more
The face on Lucas. The big
Oswald.
pout.
The body language. seems to indicate
I guess I'm not the main character
it's just
today.
out of reach. Enchanted Quiver. That expansion slot is doing so much for Jacob Lance over here. He found the Burn Bear, has the Waning Moon as well. Jacob Lance with 0 AB, but thanks to that Enchanted Quiver.
Endless Arrow, double pumped, comes in for 10 dominate. Lucas Oswald at 1, head in hands. Is Jacob Lance about to punch his ticket to the semifinals here? You see a sigh from Lucas Oswald. We'll look at the hand one more time.
Guess I'll just go for it.
Answer, but I don't think it's there, Punkage.
Burn Bear
Here's
not
Storm
pitching.
Striders.
Burn Bear not pitching is actually hurting Lucas so much with his hand over here.
Yeah, just fires off the Burn Bear. Quiver's gonna do its thing. Jacob Lance stays alive. There's the Waning Moon. Jacob Lance falls to 1 and gets the fist bump. And Jacob Lance is our first
Unfortunate.
semifinalist.
Poor Lucas. Still, that was a good game. That was a very good game. Real tight. Yeah, I think that one plow decision could have potentially changed the outcome of this game. I think that was maybe a big deal. Now, this is what I'm super interested in. I want to watch these gravy games, especially against a blocky deck.
It's time for the next quarterfinal game here from the U.S. National Championship, live from Las Vegas. Looks like we've got Gravy Bones going first.
I think I convinced Jacob to make a change to his deck also, which is funny.
Gravy Bones. Let's get into it.
Don't think that Command and Conquer is going to stay in the deck anymore.
Alrighty.
I'm personally cutting the Command and Conquer, and I'm swapping it for more Golden Tipples. I think Golden Tipple's like the best card in the deck.
Chart the high seas, gonna put Chum in, make that gold. Now Chum can come on out. That's a card that is gonna be a little challenging for Adrian to clear. Double ally on turn 0, 1 from the yard and 1 from the hand. It's about as good a start as maybe you could hope for as you see the eyebrows go up
pretty
from
good.
Adrian.
In Limited, the thing you are really hoping your opponent doesn't do is resolve 1 ally on their very first turn if you force Gravy Bones to go first. And Classic Constructed 2 is about as catastrophic as it can get, especially with Chum on the board. He can force
I feel like you just redirect
Adrian
that.
to send an attack straight into it.
Oh, looks like Brambles Park is
It's one of those weird spots where you're like,
hero,
on the one
unless-
hand, I want to redirect all this damage. On the other, if you go face and ignore my board, like, I might be okay with that.
card has been errata, which I don't think are.
And if you redirect it and he just plays a swarming, it was kind of a waste. I guess you wait to see if he activates Grasp, right? If he activates... then it's too late, right? He's either going to play a big ding-dong right now and go face, or he's going to activate Grasp and then play Swarming or something. And if he does that, then the one that actually gives you priority is the one that you didn't want to redirect anyways. So you probably just like let this happen, whatever.
Nope, my bad.
Oracle text, yeah, all good. That
My
is
bad.
just gonna go towards the target hero. So now there's a reaction window here for both of these allies. Looks like Jacob is
One
not
CMH?
going to
What a
activate
mad
either
lad.
Sawbones or Chum in response to this Bramble Spark.
Bramble Spark Arcane coming through first, and then a massive Autumn's Touch for 8.
3-card
Adrian's
9,
like, I
ain't
need
it?
to figure die. This
You're
five
gonna have to do better than that.
Just gonna go ahead and clear out the Chum here. Has to leave the Sawbones around. Pitch away the
Also-
Wanderer's Diplomacy. Keep a card around
Hey,
for
Orknight.
Arsenal.
How you doing?
Clearly, what I meant when I mentioned Bramble Spark would be fantastic for clearing some of these allies out.
Thanks
that it
for
allows you
joining.
to still send some arcane damage face while sending
Naturally.
the attack.
Yeah, I
at
feel
the
like
ally.
almost
So this
everything
and
in
pretty content to not discard
the top 8
Chum's
was
abilities
favored
since
for
he
him,
doesn't have
except
to, as
for
Adrian's already
I guess not
already
everything.
get
He's
two
probably
Chum
behind against the
turn.
Verdances.
Chum also can be used just to get some allies in the graveyard, but here Jacob
Behind
either
versus
doesn't have the ally
Prism.
or doesn't want to do so. Often, if you're gonna
And I don't
put
know
an
how
ally
new
in the
plays.
yard with Gravy's ability,
I
especially now
assume
that
you're
you've got two
slightly
gold,
behind
you wanna do it
versus
on your
new, but I
own
don't actually
turn,
know.
Given the Dead Thread's potential.
I guess it
Gonna
depends on the
draw
new build.
No quarter here. Got plenty of allies to choose from. 3.
Got flag 2 allies. We got ways on board to get allies in the bin, I guess. I'm surprised he didn't block since he has allies on board. Like, whatever. You didn't clear my board, I'll block.
Did bring the Oystons into the matchup. It looks as though the Chum might be headed to the yard again. Adrian's seen it once. He's going to see it again.
Oh, did
You
he
see those Chums
kill the
back
ally?
to
Did I miss that?
back at these since he doesn't have.
Oh, he did
Chum
kill the
also
ally.
can be
Okay.
used just to get some allies
Never
in
mind.
the graveyard. But here, Jacob
False alarm.
either doesn't have the ally or doesn't want to do so. Often, if you're going to try to get an ally in the yard with Gravy's ability, especially now that you've got 2 gold, you do want to do it on your own
Wonder
turn,
how-
given the Dead Thread's
I don't know how I feel about
potential.
AB0 in this
Gonna draw
matchup.
the give no quarter
I
here. Got plenty of
understand.
allies to choose from. 3. Did bring the Oystons into the matchup. It
It's
looks as
tough.
though the
All of your
Chum might be
equipment
headed
is
to the
so
yard
good in
again.
Gravy that
Adrian's
it's
seen it once, he's gonna
so
see it
tough
again.
giving it up.
When you see those Chums back to back to back hit the table, it's one of the most demoralizing things that can happen to you as a low action point stack.
Dead Threads now can be activated. Here comes the floating resource.
Turning that card 75 degrees, just so you know it's tapped.
Yeah, it was tapped nicely, and then
What never mattered, the
maybe
AB?
just to annoy some people in chat, turned it just a little bit more.
We call that the psychic damage strategy, Sam.
Tipple here, gonna ditch the Anka.
The psychic damage is
make
very
a gold,
important.
draw
Opponent
a
didn't
card,
present
3 go again
I need an it.
psychic barrier.
Surely his name is Anka, like an anchor. Anka.
here. Anka, what'd I say? Anka?
I think everybody.
Oh my god.
Anka.
Ellie,
Anka.
stop, you're killing
Like,
me.
It probably isn't like Anka.
Ellie's
I
pronunciations
would-
does
I
psychic
would-
damage.
Anka Dragunda.
Anka.
Now, Adrian here, it's always, like with all these potential board state decks in Flesh and Blood, not feeling great to block attacks early in the combat chains when you know you have to deal with allies, but Adrian there wants to get the Rootbound Carapace out of hand just to get another Earth card in the yard.
Does not feel good to not decompose your rootbound carapaces, though. Especially when Disruption immediately follows it. Loot the hold, forcing the hero hit by the next ally attack.
This is the discard one? Yeah.
To discard a card, and then Chum hitting the table, who costs 0 to attack with. So we're going to see a pretty obnoxious 6 here, using the 1 left over from Sawbones. After putting this Chum on the board, 6, you discard a card if this connects, and I will make a gold token.
Yeah, 5 pitch total after pitching the blue and the yellow, so had the 1 floating left over after playing Chum. That means that this gold baited hit, and it is free, and it is, you know, safe like you mentioned there because the gold has already been created. Now we're threatening 2 on hits with this Sawbones, and there's a Chum on the board to back it up, threatening gold and a discard, and Adrian's already
Gold,
blocked
gold,
on the
discard.
turn.
Stop
He's down
punching
to
me.
3 cards in hand.
Leave me
These
alone.
cards to this Sawbones, how's he going to clear either of these allies?
I guess he's not really
Just to
punching him. He's dealt
clarify,
1 point of
Sawbones
damage.
does cost 1 to attack with. Chum is free, which I maybe expected, misreading the amount of cards he was putting into the pitch zone there, but it makes a lot of sense to crack in with this Sawbones against decks like Florian. This is basically command and conquer.
Yeah, taking all 6 down to 34. 2 triggers here. Lose the Fruits of the Forest. Earth card.
I
in
am
the
surprised that
graveyard
he's
at the
letting this
minimum.
happen.
Another gold for Gravy Bones. And it is often when Gravy Bones has run out of his treasure that he begins to look a little more vulnerable. But Jacob
This feels like a
is rich
block.
early.
2 to 3 cards
Four
and just
gold this
Reaping
early
Blade.
is just so
Guy,
powerful
but-
for Gravy. This hero is firing on all cylinders when you are capable of seeing 4, 5, 6 different cards in a single turn cycle. It's what makes the hero so strong, is the ability to sculpt his hand towards basically anything
And he went
he
ally
wants.
with that? Surely you just let kill the guy with a more efficient attack, right? I don't know about this. I feel like you just block and then weapon.
Or needs in a given context.
Now the question is, the first Decompose online for Florian. He has the 3 Earth cards in the Banish Zone. Will he be able to clear enough and clear effectively enough so that the Florian hero ability and the tried and true Grasp with the Arcanite plus Reaping Blade is enough value at the end of this game? This one is gonna go long. We have to imagine we're gonna get to second cycle. And the question is, will Jacob be able to get enough damage through before the unrelenting value that Florian can present overwhelms him?
Also, interesting thing going on there is that Florian's first decomposition was 3 Earth cards. I think the pattern a lot of these Florian decks typically take is 2, then you leave the Earth card you decomposed within the yard, and then go 3 and 3. Maybe.
Yeah, that's pretty
possibly
surprising.
Finds himself online. I mean, not necessarily faster, but it gives him some space to do a 2 decomposal later. If he
Is there
starts
anything
with
that you can
3.
play in Pirate that turns cards face down and
Look
banish?
at the top
I thought it was all
card,
graveyard.
Compass. Let's see what's in the hand. Murderous Rabble, Call to the Grave.
And Conqueror, as well as
This is a good hand.
believe, Loot the Hold.
Yeah, Loot the
I don't have
Hold.
heuristics yet for how to use my Call of the Graves yet.
Blues to go with it. Threaten that arsenal, can crack in with the Sawbones.
So many options with that card.
2 allies to work with for Jacob. He's got the Anka, got the Rigor Mortis. Needs to play a blue to get either of them out. Jacob's going to do some resource math as he describes. Perhaps we can see what Adrian is working with. Yellow Rootbound, Felling of the Crown, Rune Rager Swarm, and Blue Cadaverous Tilling. So needs to make an aura on the turn to give the Rune Rager go again. That's a nice way to clear the Sawbones, so probably needs to keep the blue in hand.
Also needs to get another Earth card in the graveyard to fire off that Felling of the Crown. It might be difficult to use all 4 cards in the same turn. The nice thing about those disruptive decompose threats, Felling and Plow Under, is that even if they attack an ally, their decompose trigger does still resolve, as they just affect each hero in the game. Have a leftover dollar.
That's fair. I already got
Use
top
gold to
8.
Draw a card here.
That's a good card to draw. When you've just spent
Oh!
it, replace your gold with
We're
the riches
rich.
of Tropal Dani.
Bro,
And
it is
Fable,
crazy how
yeah,
expensive
in the
this
pitch
Fable is
zone,
already.
Refunding the gold.
Fables are a meme. What a bad card design.
Now with the 1 floating, still has plenty of blues left.
Let's make the most expensive
That
cards in our
Conqueror of
games
the
also
High
hard to
Seas
pull.
in his
Sorry,
hand,
the most
as
impactful
well
cards in our
as
game also
likely
hard to
a
pull.
Big old ally swing to follow it up.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, something's missing.
Yeah, had to play the blue first before Anka comes out. Adrian catching that one. Loot the Hold played.
Do not be fooled, people at home. Even the best players in a country, the best players in the game, still have to read their cards sometimes.
And this has go again to the
Conquer of the High Seas here, smashing in for 8. Go again, and because the gold has already been created with the Riches of Tropaldani, once again, the gold-baited hook, free to use on this turn without fear of being destroyed because the gold has been created. Now here's 8. Go again. It's asking for cards. It's asking for.
Nice thing here too is he has 3 gold, so he doesn't like need this to hit.
The arsenal, of
It's just
course,
kind of free.
and with the dead threads, there's 1 resource available for either of these other allies.
Also, notably, Jacob has emptied his hand out entirely, insulating himself from a Face Purgatory activation.
I wonder if the gold-baited hook was worthwhile utilizing on either Sawbones or Anka. You're already having such an important on-hit effect with this Conqueror. Do you want to split up the on-hits rather than staple them both on? Because the Loot the Hold is also going to be on the ally attack. Oh, I guess you're stapling it either way, because the Loot the Hold is asking for a discard. The Conqueror is asking for the arsenal. Adrian just getting it from left, right, and center here.
Yeah, rather than forking the gold on hit onto something else, which, since there's an on hit on both things,
I think there's like a little bit of value on moving the bait to something else. depending on what you think the arsenal is. Because if this is a D-React, then it's not like this buys 3 cards from hand. It buys, like, card from arsenal, card from hand, and maybe a piece of armor if he doesn't have another D-React in hand. So I think spreading it out is pretty reasonable. Because the one from hand, he can't just, like, if he has a D-React here, we're getting this, you know? I think either's defensible, though.
That if Adrian decides to commit cards to this Conqueror
Okay,
of
done
the
thumbing
High
through
Seas,
this.
Unless he gives up armor, he almost certainly will have his last card stripped away by that Loot the Hold, forcing him to be basically able to do nothing on his turn and causing these ally threats to keep.
Conversely, at our locals, we have one person that opened 2 Fables, and we're all
earlier in this tournament, you know, there were
saying
major
mean things to him.
Major players bringing Gravy Bones, and many of them went like 0-2, 0-3.
Yeah.
He opens like this every single set.
Still needs a lot of figuring out, and clearly still has many weaknesses. However, when the deck sings, you are seeing allies, you are seeing disruption, and you're seeing a new flavor of all of, you know, the above, with the Gravy Bones allies needing a challenging. It's challenging for them to find the action points, but they do have the disruption as well as these sticky board state effects in a really interesting combination like we haven't really quite seen. The Conqueror of the High Seas is going to connect. Gravy Bones' Armada is beginning to enact their bloody vengeance as the Sawbones is coming in, powered up by the Loot the Hold. We lost the Trot along to the Arsenal. Another gold plundered for Gravy, and this is going to buy some blocks, stopping the Loot the Hold effect.
Who better for the Warriors of the Sea to enact their vengeance on than the man of the land himself, Florian. 13 life down with 2 allies on the board and only 3 cards to work with is a brutal situation for Adrian to be on just the second
Unlucky.
turn of this quarterfinals game.
Yeah, Gravy Bones here.
Yeah.
Firing on all cylinders.
Luck of
Got
the
2
leg.
allies out on turn 0. It had the higher seed, so was able to choose to go first. Rewarded for it. He's finding disruption.
Fucking leg.
He's finding allies. Adrian here can do nothing but try to clear the board as he tries to work towards an endgame state that is much more favorable.
Something really interesting about Jacob's plan in this game so far has been that every time he sticks Sawbones, he follows it up with something that's a little bit more obnoxious to deal with, like Chum or Anka, basically buying his Sawbones an entire turn on the board. Thankfully, Rune Rager's Swarm was here to save the day a little bit, but Adrian has been forced more than once to leave Sawbones alive and have to contend with 6 on-board power.
There, the Sawbones actually getting the effect utilized, stopping the Rune Chant that came along with the Rune Rager Swarm, but the Reaving Blade able to clear up the other allies for the first time. It's a clear board for Jacob Shaker. The question is, how will he utilize all the tempo? As I think we might be seeing a Whaler Humperdinck head to the graveyard after the Gravy Bones activation.
I'll just sit on the Whaler for a while.
On back. Let's see what else is in the hand. Wow, it's a 4 ally
Certainly not
hand
casting with
plus
this
the
hand.
Conqueror of the High Seas. This is where Gravy Bones starts to get a little tricky.
This hand is kind of cringe.
Sam and I played a game of Flesh and Blood
Probably try to
last night in
set
which
the
we had a pretty
Conqueror.
commanding lead, drew 4 allies with no gold, and went to negative 20 something. So definitely a very real downside of the deck, showing its teeth here for Jacob Shaker. Even though he is going to get this Whaler Humperdinck in the yard to resolve it later, he needs to find the blues to play it and needs to find a blue to get in the yard. As well, speaking of needing blues, this Conqueror of the High
Maybe he just
Seas,
plays the Conqueror
High Tide
to
isn't active, is
tell
only
Adrian
a
to fuck
4 for
off.
7. No,
Build up
going
the graveyard a bit.
And with the Gravy Bones, put the Whaler in the graveyard. Now just 3 allies in the hand plus the Conqueror.
Oh, he already peeked at the top?
I'm not sure
Interesting.
precisely what the arsenal is for Jacob.
I feel like you're supposed to wait to hero
It is
power
an
before
off turn,
peeking.
Jacob. I agree. Do you need to use the Mage Master boots? Looks like it's the Give No Quarter. That can really change the math on something like a Whaler Humperdinck, but no blues in the hand.
Let's do some math here, Sam.
No.
Okay, my bad.
No, you do it. You do it. I just don't like. I just not a math guy.
Give no quarter.
Give No Quarter here. Going to go ahead. Looks like it's going to discount the Rigor Mortis.
Yeah, looks like he can't quite afford playing and swinging the Whaler Humperdinck. As crushing as that would be For Adrian, I don't think it's quite in the cards, but he is
Oh, just
going to
spam
resolve
allies hand. I guess that
multiple
makes sense.
allies on this turn and follow it up with a Conqueror of the High Seas doing the Gravy Bones thing. This is what these board state decks
I don't know if I like this play.
to do to you. They want to put multiple obnoxious to clear sticky threats on the board and then follow it up with an absolutely brutal punish to make you take a bunch of damage and lose cards if you want to clear the board. I mean, this is how Enigma won games. Sam, she would stick Manifestations of Miragai and follow up with a massive disruptive attack to make it harder for you to clear that dragon, and that's exactly what the Shipwrecked Looter is doing in this game.
So some really great sequencing here from Jacob. The Give No Quarter discounts both of those Rigor Mortises, utilizes the Dead Threads resource to use the Mage Master boots for the second free Rigor Mortis, pitch the rest into the ship, but the Decompose on the Rootbound Carapace, plus the Canopy Shelter and the piece of equipment, enough to block out the Conqueror of the High Seas that followed it up. The Might Token gonna trigger, pitch into the grasp of the Arc Knight. How is Adrian going to clear either or both of these Rigor Mortises?
I believe he has a Rune Ranger Storm in hand here, getting to send 1 arcane damage at face while getting one of these Rigor Mortis off the board. And I imagine he'll follow this up with Reaping Blade to clear the other one, but he's been on janitor duty for so long here. He's 12 life down, and he's passing back to Jacob, who still has 4 cards to work with.
Jacob still 4 cards to work with. It's going to be Gravy Bones activating on the turn.
Yeah, I guess the plan here is just try to fatigue Jacob. Kind of hard with the 3 Whalers.
This thing out, draws the Anka, still hasn't activated the Compass, so can utilize it now to see what's on the top.
I feel like we've gotten enough chip damage already where 3 Whalers can win the game if opponent doesn't actually play the game.
So it looks like we're putting the Anka down, making a resource with the Dead Threads. Activate the hook, come in with the tipple.
Maybe more obnoxious than an attack for 6 with a gold baited hook on it is an attack for 1. Very difficult to deal with, and that golden tipple has drawn him into
Golden tipple's so good in this deck.
A fantastic way to resolve multiple allies and swing with them, especially in conjunction with that Give No Quarter in his hand.
Down to 25 goes Adrian as he accepts the golden tipple, the gold baited hook, and to go ahead and fish another piece of coin from the depths. Up to 5 gold is Jacob. He's on 38 life, playing 25 for our Florian player. Florian so advantaged if he can run this Gravy Bones deck out of those allies. He has the inevitability. The question is, will Jacob be able to swing enough damage together
and survive?
I think if your strategy to beat Gravy is fatiguing them, then potentially Gravekeeping is pretty good, because I imagine at least early on, a lot of the Gravies, their plan is just going to be get a Whaler in the bin and then wait to push you down in life total, and then resolve a Whaler, strip your hand, you can't win the game anymore. Or do that a couple times in the first Whaler to just push damage and then force the opponent to take damage to clear the Whaler. Or do like Whaler Chum, things like that. And if that's the plan from the Gravy side, then I think typically the Whaler just kind of sits in the graveyard for a while. So Gravekeeping that out, if you know that you can win through fatigue, is maybe reasonable, because they're not just going to like play it the second it hits the bin. That could cause the Gravies to change their strategy, though. We're pretty early on, so strategies are going to change over time.
With 2 Whaler Humperdinks looming large in the graveyard, that 11 power threat is looking very real for Mr. K-Bar.
Let's see just how Jacob wants to utilize the cards in his hand. A lot of different options in this Gravy Bones deck at all time. Here comes a Vasti. Next ally gets go again, so Anka can come out. We've already used the Dead Threads.
God, the art on a Vasti is just so sick.
Absolutely. Look at the tentacles and the monster behind the Pirates as Anka is going to go ahead and crash in for 5 with go again. And that means another ally can come out and join the party. Canopy Shelter going to create the Might. Condemned to Slaughter going to be used for the block, and it is just going to be Oyston here to come out from the hand.
Yet again, I think this is the 3rd or 4th turn in a row he's stuck 2 allies when left with 4 cards.
Might's going to pop here.
Yeah, eventually we're going to get allies to stick on the board and opponent won't have go again. And then we're going to start playing our go agains and swing multiple allies and push the life totals down.
I don't think he's going to be able to. But that's pretty good as well. Felling of the Crown for 11 and 1. a pretty massive amount of damage on offer here, as
Sheesh.
well as a disruptive.
Well, I guess we're
to
keeping our
force
allies this
trigger.
turn.
No, I mean I do have action.
Okay.
I
It's
wanted
not
to
an
be
Earth.
online here.
Yeah.
I should've
Yeah, Adrian realizing there isn't an Earth action to satisfy the third and final
That's tough.
cost. So he is unfortunately going to need another decomposition after this turn. You can see the head go to the hands. He was making this play to be able to be online this turn. He's going to need a whole separate decomposition from here, and you can see a bit of a
To be
misstep
fair,
and a
I don't think that
miscalculation.
like
Still got a little bit of the smile on his
really is
face. He
going
could
to
make
change
some
the
food,
outcome of this game
but
very
that has
much,
gotta be a
decomposing a
little
turn
bit
earlier.
of a bummer.
Like, opponent is
Yeah,
still
a
at
bit of
38. I don't think
brutal
this really matters.
misplay there. Maybe a little bit of awkwardness brought around by that breaking from that normal 2-3-3 decomposition pattern and getting an Earth action out of the graveyard early, like we talked about earlier.
Now Felling of the Crown asking for a card from Jacob Shaker to go to the bottom of the deck, and then just going to crash in for 12. Jacob finally going to potentially take a lick of damage. First the Arcane comes through from the Bramble Spark, down to 37 he goes.
Oh, the might. I was like,
Jacob's
shouldn't
like,
this be 11?
oh,
The might.
finally
Nice
you're
taking
punching
the
me.
shelter.
I can keep my
And
allies.
Jacob's just going to
Great.
take it. All of a sudden, life totals evened up for Adrian.
This doesn't
The
fucking
question
matter.
is, can he continue to find some action points, or will the undead crew soon become too much?
Looks like Jacob didn't have all that much agency in terms of taking all that damage with two non-blocking cards in his hand and drawing a third off the top in the form of this Eye of Ophidia. Pretty sweet interaction here where when you pitch Eye of Ophidia into a gold, you get to opt to before actually drawing the card, just leaving both there in exactly the order they were.
Another chart, the high seas. This one's going to be played. We know what the first one is, so that one's going to get pitched. And a chum as the
Oh my
second card.
God.
So happy is Jacob Shaker to see that card pop out. Chum, he's a friendly first mate. He's happy to be sitting right below that blue card, jump right into the graveyard.
And he happens to have exactly enough resources from this chart, the high seas, after using the eye into that gold to pay for Gravy's friendly first mate.
Pretty good turn.
Chum, a third ally likely to hit the table on this turn, Sam. How does Adrian crawl out of this hole?
It's going to be challenging. He might just need to utilize some big threats like that Felling and catch Jacob on a hand with no blocks. Like you said, I took an enormous lick.
Honestly, if you were building a cube for this set, I might just keep it like a straight up just as is cube. I did that with OG Innistrad, where I just recreated the limited format and didn't change anything, and just so I don't have to. So it's like the original OG Innistrad. I don't think I would change really anything about the set from the base limited set. So I would just try to keep it about the same. Maybe if you wanted to, you could cut a couple bombs, like some of the Majestics, but that's a preference thing. I don't think I would add anything. I think the set's just great as is.
Last night when my hand was 4 allies and we were playing. I know it's possible. I know it ain't feel good. Adrian there, after seeing that big attack for 12 connect, might just have to find more moments like that, because the thing for Gravy Bones is no matter how many allies are on the board, you still got to have life total points to be able to finish the game.
And action points to actually use all the
Really
allies.
giving this one, I think, 4 floating. Plenty of allies. Gonna go ahead and crack another gold, go down to 3. Draws into, looks like a blue flying high. Another way to get some action points on the turn.
Hand flush with options here.
Gold, Gravy Bones, Compass. When you play this deck, the options are nearly limitless, it feels, especially in a matchup like this where you're given continuous agency to sculpt your hands and play them out however you'd like. You have access to the top of your deck multiple different ways. You can check which card is there before you go fishing. So many options available in this Gravy Bones deck. It feels nearly impossible to find the absolute perfect line every turn, but if there's one player I'd expect to do so, it would be our top 8 competitor, Jacob Shaker. He's no stranger to top 8s. He's a relative stranger to this deck, but it hasn't stopped him yet.
And taking his time to really figure out what he wants to do on each one of these turns is likely how he made it into our top 8 here, Sam. This is careful, thoughtful, studious play where he is considering every single option he has.
Humper
and after
time.
considering them all, he has
Yeah, I think we're
decided
getting that gold
the
token.
thing to do here is sing a wailing song with Mr. Humper Bumper crashing in for 11 here, threatening a gold on hit.
Yeah, a lot of blues in the pitch, a lot of blues utilized to draw cards and find the way to come in with this Whaler.
I like that getting the humper out.
6 resources necessary to play the card, 6 resources
We still got 2
necessary
more.
to attack with it, but you are rewarded for your trouble.
It's also like
With
asking the
attack for
question, do
11,
you have something that deals 7
body
right now?
That is pretty
Otherwise, game
impressive
over.
when you look at the rest of these allies. 7 life.
An opponent
on
doesn't
the
have an
humper
arsenal,
bumper
so
as you
that
put it.
increases the likelihood that he
is
doesn't have a way to
challenging
kill
thing
it.
here to deal with. Luckily for Adrian, did look like there's an E-strike in the hand. He'll be able to clear it. And the question is, how about the next turn? And the next turn? And the turn after that? As if there's one thing we know about
Humper
the
is
undead,
basically
it's that
impossible
they
to kill
are
for this deck
relentless.
also in
They
second
just
cycle.
keep coming, and it takes only the most hardened of warriors to be able to cut down that horde.
Mr. Humpernickel demanding 2 of Adrian's remaining cards in hand here, and 2 allies will remain on the board. This is a colossal amount of value to get out of this card here. It's functionally worth 18, and he started this turn with 3 cards in hand, Sam.
That is pretty impressive. You can see just what Chart the High Seas able to do. Look at him. He's
Chart is such a busted
sculpting
card.
The pitch stack. Have to wonder if Call to the Grave is going to make all of that just a little bit moot. And Light Strike here going to target the Whaler Humperdinck card to the bottom. I think the choice is going to be +2 to make sure we clear out the Humper.
That would make sense to me.
Pass priority once again. Janitor duty as you describe.
You just gotta clean it up. It's so much like
Oh, that
playing
was you?
against
That was fun.
Dromai. For a lot of these low
Nice
action
cube.
heroes, the only thing you can do. I mean, this is just shades of the past, aping previous matchups in front of us. Sam, this is Oldhim versus Dromai.
I'm so
This
sad. I
is
made
Starvo versus
my
Prism.
Innistrad cube right before COVID, and I've basically never had a chance to use it. I think I've drafted with it one time, and ever since then, no one's ever wanted to do it. So unfortunate. I put so much work into that. I had to like go find YouTube videos of people opening packs of Innistrad to like map out pull rates of stuff and try to figure out the ratios of different things. It was so cringe recreating that. I think I spent like 15 hours just figuring out the logistics of the
Flesh
set.
and Blood tournament gameplay. What the low action point deck has to do is they just have to swing that weapon. They have to keep clearing those allies and play this long game, run their opponent out of threats, and stay healthy enough that they can close inevitably in the late game with their real weapon. And Gravy Bones, the board state deck, has to find a way over, and that's exactly what Jacob's aiming for here, using this flying high not only for an extra action point as kind of a, extra copy of a Vasti in this hand, it's also a blue card going to the graveyard, and he has plenty.
Well, I used to be a part of a big Magic group. My before I played Fab, I was a part of a big Commander group
And it seems
of
Adrian
like,
kind of smells that, lining up a
I don't know,
face
like
purgatory
40
block
people
here
or
to
so.
hopefully stanch the bleeding
The whole
on
group
this
just
turn.
fell apart after COVID.
I'm not attacking you.
Yeah, they're looking at face purgatory here because the ally is attacking and not
no.
the hero. Face purgatory not actually going to trigger. It's the attacking hero that discards a card, not an attacking ally.
Sick Riptide trap.
Brutal. Talk about more
That's tough, buddy.
Dromai experiences recreated here. This is Reckless Swing into a dragon coming at you while Dromai is
Someone
at
should
2.
have brought Balance of Justice.
Yeah, just confirming. Yeah, you can hear the explanation here. Again, this is the first time this hero has been
Judge,
legal in a
please
CC
explain to my opponent how
tournament.
fucked they
Adrian
are.
Done so well to get to this point, but probably hasn't faced as many Gravy Bones as these other opponents throughout the tournament. Still going to be able to draw a card, but the discard not going to trigger with the face purgatory. Means this tipple can come out, means the limpet can be discarded, means the gold is created, means the card is drawn, and that is a brutal break for our Florian player.
I think we might see a 4th ally in 2 turns hit the board here, Sam.
True. Should have
And
practiced.
You can see the disappointment
Unlucky.
on his face as this attack for 3 comes forward. Gonna get the block of the Channel the Millennium Tree. Murderous Rabble gonna show a blue. 3 more go again. This Gravy Bones deck feels like it's
What an
light
idiot.
on
He had
action
so much
points
time
until
to
it's
prep for
not,
Gravy
until
before this
suddenly he's
event.
attacking you with go again
Definitely should have
over and
practiced.
over again,
Keck
sticking
W.
some threats, presenting the disruption. Deck can do a little bit of everything when the cards work together nicely.
when the crew sings their rum song all together, Sam.
Limpet coming in. 2 go again. Down to 15 goes Adrian. He's just trying to be able to clear some allies. And now Oyston able to come in, finish this massive, massive turn. Block out the Oyston. Finally, we're going to be able to decompose the 3 that Adrian wanted to do a couple turns ago. A couple of missteps here for our Florian player. Can have to see if it bites him and if it's going to be the difference maker in this quarterfinals match.
Yeah, I think what Florian really wants to be doing in this matchup is getting online as quickly as possible so that he can send more multitudinous amounts of rune chants at face while clearing allies.
Here comes the rune chant. And here comes the second, thanks to the Florian hero ability. Reaping Blade going to take care of Anka. 2 damage over, 23 for Jacob Shaker. But he has got everything working for him in this matchup.
He killed Anka?
Almost irrelevant for Gravy Bones here.
For him, Dan, thanks to the Florian hero ability.
I feel like you're supposed to kill the go again one there. Maybe I'm wrong.
Just looking to close the game with a smothering amount of board state. Let's see what he draws and discards off Gravy here. Looks like a Whaler Humperdinck off the top.
And plenty of blues to work with.
Hump day.
Wonder if we're going to see a second one reanimated.
Would have to play a blue to be able to play the Whaler Humperdinck.
I think ideally I want to play it
Side exchange in hand.
after pushing just a little bit more damage.
Discard Rigor Mortis, make a gold, draw a card. And I think we're just going to see him do exactly that with Golden Tipple here instead.
I want like a little bit more chip damage before playing the Whaler, so that way we buy the whole hand.
His chest
Get like 3 cards.
is brimming with treasure. Up to 6 gold now for our shipwrecked looter. He is looting, and he is looting good. Got plenty of blues here. The Golden Tipple creating that gold and getting another ally in the graveyard. Still working with both Oyston and Limpet, ready to do their master's bidding. Break chain here. Look at the top of the deck. Let's see what we find. Can't quite get a good view of it.
I do want to point something out here, though, Sam. Jacob's deck is starting to look quite thin.
Absolutely true. We are running out of some of those threats. You have to imagine Whaler Humperdinck is part of the solution here. Adrian got plenty more deck to work with. You have to imagine he's thinking of the potential angle of fatiguing this Gravy Bones deck. But Jacob been able to find the action points, been able to find the go again. Will he continue to do so on this turn?
Spending 1 on a Rigor Mortis, a 3rd ally hitting the board. Flying high to give it go again. 6 go again. This is 2 for 6 with go again. He just played a Swiftwater Sloop.
There's the action points that we just described. Flying high.
A War-Tune Herald, you say?
Millennium Tree and Plow under. Adrian's down to 14. Jacob's down to 23. 30 minutes have elapsed so far.
I'm a War-Tune enjoyer.
Quarterfinals, game 2. As we are getting towards the end of our action in the next series of turns, Limpet can come in, crash in for 2. She's got that natural go again.
Just need like a little bit more chip damage. Just like a smidge more.
God, I would not like to see good old Limpet humping after me. Stuff of nightmares.
Blood still on the leg.
Oh my goodness. Let's see, checking all the allies available.
He has a blue to work with here in hand. We could see him pitch that Call to the Grave to establish a Sawbones and swing with it, but he also has the option to crack it and paying 0 with Oyston threatening to put Adrian down to 9, and then Arsenal Call to the Grave, a card that lets you go get literally anything from your deck and put it in the graveyard.
That could be a back alley break line, another way to get action points. It could be another ally. Adrian here, he's keeping 2 cards in hand. Let's see how he's going to use them. Reaping Blade can clear out the Rigor Mortis. 2 rune chants. These rune chants are going to start to get annoying for Jacob. But
hopefully he's setting something that can kill Hump.
He's playing both halves of Arcane Sea's life. He's making 4.
Really need to get something in Arsenal that can kill Humperdinck.
And all of a sudden, he's having a little bit of a bigger attack as he clears out the Rigor Mortis.
That might just be GG.
Asked if he was going to have enough life, and it looks like he's working on it right now, gaining a little bit there. These, 1 to 2 points.
I might just go for the Humperdinck this round.
Of life gain that happened.
Opponent would have to keep 2 cards to clear the Humperdinck and have exactly a card in hand that
Jacob's
does
got no
do it.
AB. There is
Oh,
no
yeah.
Arcane Barrier available for this Gravy Bones deck. Now that Adrian is online, you saw how disappointed he was when he realized he didn't have that final Earth action a couple turns ago when he was doing that Decompose. It's because this Reaping Blade plus Grass play actually represents even more inevitability than we've initially described. The lack of Arcane Barrier is a clock for Jacob Shaker. He is taking 2 damage every single turn that Adrian is able to be
I think
left with
Jacob
blue
would
in the
fatigue
hand.
before he
Adrian's
dies
got
to 2
10
damage a
life.
turn.
That's a fair bit. This Florian deck blocks very well.
I don't think this game
Can Jacob
physically goes 6
continue
more
to
turns.
string together the action points and actually pressure Adrian, or are the Rune Chants going to have the final say? Might be a little closer than it has appeared for many of these turns.
5 cards to work with for Jacob here.
And some
Quite
good
a
ones.
lot of resources. Golden Tipple to send go again and filter the hand. He gets Call to the Grave in the arsenal and 3 blues in hand.
And the Murderous Rabble continues to impress throughout this weekend. 3 go again in your blue slot is just so impressive at
It
these
blocks
points in the
3.
game.
On rate
And it
blues,
blocks
they
3.
learned nothing after
Gonna be the
MST.
Gravy Bones activation here.
Let's see what the rip is.
Off the top, we find one of the amulets. I believe that's the Amethyst. Electing to keep it in the hand and lose the go again in the Golden Tipple because it's time to call to the grave.
I suspect we're going to see Mr. Humpernickel make his entrance once again as Jacob has 12 resources to work with on this turn.
Limpet to the graveyard. Once again, looking for those action points. Limpet can be so hard to deal with at these end game states. Just 2 go again. Almost like a weapon that has to be cleared out.
A Kadachi even.
I'll make $1 with my death threats because I've been double put.
Make $1, he says.
Oh, it's limpet time.
With the Limpet already on the board here for
Or not
2.
Limpet,
Adrian
Humper
having a
time.
Pretty clutch Canopy Shelter here. Not only going to block 2, but generate 2 mites now that he's online. If the big ol' singer himself is about to make an appearance.
Now
once
I
again,
might not
like
play
we
the Humper because of the
suspect,
Mite
that
tokens.
Could be incredibly instrumental in ending his concert early.
And is there the right attack in hand? There's a Plow Under and a Sow Tomorrow.
That will do the job.
He'd have to block 1 card.
Says, I'll dink.
Here comes the hook. Here comes the Humpernickel. Whaler Humperdinck coming down, crashing in for 11. Adrian here, though, because of those 2 mites, going to be able to
I guess it
block
just
with
doesn't
another
matter.
card.
We
He's
have
gonna
another
take some
Humperdinck in the
damage,
deck.
but he will be able to clear this with both of these cards in his hand. The Plow Under will be enough to get rid of the Whaler Humperdinck, but he's going to take some real damage to do so.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to take 8 here. He has the well-grounded still. But it just doesn't look good. I don't know how he deals with this compounding threat when he can only clear 1 ally every turn, and Jacob's establishing 1 every turn. This Limpet and Oyston are turning out to be a real assassin card in the form of a pain in the backside for Adrian.
Get it?
Adrian here has to consider. So good that those mites are able to power up the Plow Under. Looks as though he might cash the Barkskin in, blocking with, if he's going to block with a non-attack action, he'll get 2 points of defensive value on this turn.
Does look like he's going to block with that Everbloom Life.
This way. I will have a defense trigger.
So this is 1 +3 +2. Pretty solid amount of defense for just 1
absolutely.
point of equipment and a card from hand.
That's 2. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. So block 6, take 5. Go to
Block
5.
6, take 5. 1 block on the Barkskin, 5 block on the non-attack. Thanks to those 2 embodiments, Adrian down to 5. Humperdinck here going to be cleared thanks to the Plow Under.
Humpernickel, Humper Bumper.
Humper bummer for Adrian here, but he is going to go ahead and clear it. It heads
What
to
do you
the
mean, EC?
graveyard face down thanks to Watery Grave. But now Limpet and Oyston stick around. Adrian all the way down to 5. He's got the clock with the Reaping Blade and the Grasp of the Arknight, but will his time run out?
Give no quarter. Definitely looking to end things a little faster here.
You mean at the state of the game that we're like
Smooth.
physically
Jacob
watching right now,
resolves
or like the state of Fab?
Whaler Humperdinck at 17 to 5. He has a commanding lead and a crushing board state. I don't know how Adrian navigates his ship through these stormy waters of Gravy Bones' army.
Yeah, I'm not in the
Draw
mood to
card,
rant again.
Refund the gold immediately. Draws into a Conqueror of the High Seas.
Oh,
Brutal.
Jacob's
Looks
so
like we're
skilled
gonna
and
see that hit
handsome.
the table.
Drew the conch.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Looks like what's going to be the call here for Jacob. Adrian's going to be pretty contentious to block as much as he can. Jacob going to draw another card, find another call to the grave. While Give No Quarter does discount the cost of playing Humperdinck, it does not discount the attack cost.
Yeah. Oh, I ranted like
Let's see what the
last
follow-up
stream
here is gonna
about
be from Jacob. Pitch away the
State of
back
Fab
belly break line.
stuff.
Let's just start off attack for 2, go again. Does this buy a card from Adrian, or does he want to sniff out a potential further threat? You have to imagine he's comfortable blocking as much as he can.
Yeah, 2 is not that tantalizing unless he has a 2 block in hand. Maybe looking to find 3 value from those block cards as his life gets so low. Well grounded, coming in instead to cleanly cover 2 at the cost of his boots.
Conk for 8, go again.
8, go again with the Conqueror of the High Seas. Not going to blow up anything.
Not yet.
Jacob's saying, I want to blow up you. Not going to happen yet.
Pretty good. I will show you 6.
Blocking 6 on 8, taking 2 is Adrian. Down to 3 he goes. As the
I think we just got it.
Horde continue to shamble
Just play the
forth
hump
from
next round and
graveyard.
kill him.
And there is something inevitable about the way they continue to pledge forward step after shambling step. Have the Oyston available, have the one floating, Give No Quarter to discount some allies. Close the chain.
Perhaps going to grab... Oh, Chum. I think I expected a limpet here.
Make one. Hook, chop.
That makes sense. Want to get the chum next to the hump to
Or
really
get the
guarantee it.
gold.
But at that point, we're just playing with
I
our
think
food.
he needed the dead threads, yeah. Still has the resource.
At least we get to Arsenal and E-Strike here if we
activates
want,
dead
but
threads
it's
just to have the one
but
floating,
we
but now
can't
Chum
live
comes and threatens the gold. But
blocking
more
hump with 3
importantly, this
cards.
is a lethal attack.
I guess if our
It
hand
is
is all
a lethal
D-reacts, we
attack.
could. Which seems unlikely this
That
deep in the
Conqueror
game.
starting off a bit of a crushing crescendo for Jacob's game so far. He has had such a commanding performance, and Adrian having to block away a piece of go again. He has no armor left.
But now he can't clear the
almost
chum.
has no life left, and there are 3 allies on the board, and perhaps most damning of all, if he were to activate...
Ooh, he got rid of the
Grasp
E-Strike.
Yevmay on this turn,
Well,
Jacob
I think that was
just
the only way that he
forces
could win this
swing
game by
making
arsenaling
way
the
to
E-Strike.
Chum, protecting yet another one of the undead crew.
Now, I believe Adrian is down to 2, took 1 damage off the chum, so Adrian was able to clear a piece of go again, but what he gets in exchange is a chum-friendly first mate that looks to make things really awkward for the next couple turns and present a breakpoint on attack. I don't know if Adrian's going to have enough life to get through these next couple turns. He's close to running Jacob out of threats, but he ain't that close. Not when there are cards like Murderous Rabble. Not when there are extra portside exchanges to filter and make more gold. 5 gold to draw into the perfect cards. Look at the top card. I'm not sure we have the right angle to see precisely what is there on top. We'll see it at some point. Maybe to this Murderous Rabble. I have to imagine we saw blue on top. It's the Ruby Amulet, which means here's 3
We
gold
got
in your
3
blue.
cards?
Adrian has found a little bit of a buffer.
I guess
in
we
this
could
Arcane
chart,
Seed's life in his hand.
hit
If he
double
can find
blue.
the space to resolve it, that is both a lot of arcane damage to help
Hero
hasten the
power,
clock
discard
on Mr.
Oyston.
Shaker's life total and get Adrian just a little bit more life to work with. But before that can happen, it looks like Chart the High Seas is going to have something to say about it. Both supplying 3
Oh, you can only pitch 1 blue that way. Okay, good to know.
resources and putting a Ruby Amulet into the graveyard. That is a blue in the yard. Gravy Bones is online, and a card is drawn off of a gold with those free resources. With Gravy Bones' ability, putting an Oyston in the bin.
Gonna go ahead and draw a card here. Rips another amulet off the top. Pitch it in, has 2 floating. Looks like he's just gonna keep on drawing.
Are we just going to make
Finds
enough mana
Captain Avastia,
by
which I
drawing
believe
cards
is
to play the
even more
hump?
action points on this turn for Jacob Shaker.
This is kind of a limited play pattern. You know, when you get to the towards of the end of those games of High Seas Limited, when you have a bunch of gold from your treasure island, you kind of start to reach a point in the game where Gravy Bones says, all right, I'm going to pitch a whole bunch of blues and draw a whole bunch of cards, and we're going to see if you explode or not. And Jacob is pretty faithfully recreating that experience in this game state, having accrued so much gold from those undeniable golden
So he can draw a card for free here, and if it's a blue, he can play the hump.
Or 1 or 2 power ally attacks that he's going to cash in those coffers and close.
Guess he's not going to bother doing that.
With even more board state threats, the third whaler hump.
Did he have a cost reduction?
Down, cracking in for 11.
I thought he had 2 floating. Did I miss something?
And annoying.
Oh, dead threads. Okay.
Or 1 or 2 power ally attacks that he's going to cash in those coffers and close this game with even more board state threats. The third whaler Humperdinck comes down, cracking in for 11. I don't think Adrian has enough to survive in the
I really like Whaler. Whaler's like what I was missing out of Dromai. It's what Optimi was supposed to be. It's this card that just gives you kind of a one-head way to close games out when people are trying to fatigue you. And Dromai never ended up getting that. So all of your ways to close games against decks trying to fatigue you were just so convoluted. I fucking hated it. I really like Humper, just for that simplicity. Just, I'm just going to play this card, it's going to get your whole damn hand, and you can never clear this ever again. So I will win the game. I will get your whole hand every turn for the rest of the game. GG's. I really like Jacob's deck. Alright, Prism time.
A lot of establishing going on.
Probably more reliably just say, I'm going to start with the tempo and start forcing cards from you.
Bird flexing a little bit with her dagger suite, showing off that gold foil.
Looking at Bird's hand over here, a very strong hand to begin with. Surgical extraction with a pump behind it, or even an activation.
The thing that sucks though is you spend your action point doing anything here turn 0.
Well. Is she going to attack on turn 0 though?
Yeah, I like not doing anything.
The Light Illusionist on turn 0, because if you use your action point and they play a Spectra card, you might suddenly find.
I think you just lose the game if you attack there and he has a aura.
Just going to go ahead and pass is Bird, and Andrew going to take a similar line here. Just play out a Passing Mirage and pass. Slow start for both players, but kind of going as you might expect. A lot of establishing going on. Over on Andrew's side, it looks like we have picked up our first Arclight Sentinel as well as a Genesis here. Double Angelic Wrath.
Do you know what else we picked up, Brian? Oh, what we haven't, rather? Blocking cards.
That is very true.
No card in that hand blocks. And Bird does have a Surgical Extraction as well as a CNC on hits, a bound for her. But have to point out she does.
Oh, it's so nice that she has the hiss too. She gets to punch him, and then when he plays the aura in response because of not being able to defend this, she gets to give it go again, then poke it with a dagger. It's so good.
Passing Mirage as well. So you can expect the hiss to maybe come into play here to give go again, and then
that's backbreaking.
Maybe send a dagger into the Passing Mirage.
Fine spot to be in. Here is Surgical Extraction, and this can potentially get in the mix here, but Andrew's going to want to use up that blue resource before he has to give it up to Surgical
Ideally,
Extraction.
Andrew should be waiting until
what Andrew Cook's arsenal is
damage and responding to the on hit to do anything here. So that way you find out whether or not this has go again. They kind of don't really have a choice. You just like have to play an aura here.
Soul Shield would be very interesting here. Andrew's going to think for a moment.
Could also just play ALS right now to dodge the Mask of Recurring Nightmares potentially. Empty your whole hand for the ALS, and then you definitely protect your Passing Mirage. Not the best use of ALS, but currently he's facing down the on-hit of Surgical and the Mask of Recurring Nightmares on the stack right now.
You're going to want to get as much value out of this hand as possible early on.
And this is where top Prism
I like this. This really forces him to make a decision of what he wants to do. So she can decide whether or not she wants to play the go again or not. And she doesn't have to show him the go again until he makes a decision.
Skills. This hero is strong, but sometimes gets really clunky hands like this. Hands of multiple figments even are very, very possible.
It just sucks. You don't like really have a choice here. You just have to play the ALS, I think.
A long tournament like US Nationals is what determines whether they can make top 8 or not.
Andrew's definitely playing something. Look, it's going to be the Genesis. Wants to keep the Arclight Sentinel around for the future. And there is the Soul Shield from Arsenal, as you mentioned, Punkage. So a good response.
I think he should have done this slightly different. It doesn't like super change that. I guess it ends up playing out the same, but just like small information gain. Pitching it so that way you go blue, yellow, yellow, float the 2. Pass priority back to her because she's turn player, she gets first priority. Don't show the Soul Shield yet. Like, don't give her that information that you're playing a Soul Shield. Let her decide what she's doing, and then when she passes priority back to you, then you play the Soul Shield.
To a no block hand here.
It ends up playing out the same because like I don't think that she would make a different decision.
Point forward, assume the Genesis
But
have to
no reason to give up that free
And
info.
this is one of the strengths of the instant speed auras. Andrew gets to empty his entire hand, and Nu wants to attack the hand. That was Mask of Recurring Nightmares on the stack that effectively just got fizzled. That was a card Bird effectively just discarded, lit on fire, if you will.
Huh?
And didn't get any...
Oh, does she not have the money to do everything? Is the last card in hand Command and Conquer? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Can't actually give it go again. Damn. I don't know if I actually like this play anymore. I thought she had the money to give it go again and swing. I think I would have just given this go again and then hit one of the auras. Fuck the mask. This doesn't matter.
To a no block hand here from Andrew Cook. And Bird's going to be on cleanup duty from this point forward. Assume the Genesis is going to have to be cleared.
And this is one of the strengths of the instant speed auras. Andrew gets to empty his entire hand, and Nu wants to attack the hand. That was Mask of Recurring Nightmares on the stack that effectively just got fizzled. That was a card Bird effectively just discarded, lit on fire, if you will, and didn't get any value from it. Didn't end up playing out the hiss either, so both these Spectras will stay on the board. However, Andrew Cook emptying his hand.
Yeah, I don't like this. We're like not using our entire hand and we're leaving him with Spectra. I guess we get to IP a Popper, which doesn't matter when the opponent played their whole hand out at instant speed. I don't know about this play.
Not just spend the entire turn clearing that Genesis.
I think that was like pretty close to a game losing this play.
Can really get dicey for Assassins if they're not able to do multiple things.
Looking at that hand over there, she does have a blue with the levels of enlightenment. Can be tempting to want to pitch the other blue to Beckoning Mistblade and then have a juiced up levels of enlightenment. But when the opponent is on Phantasmal Footsteps to easily block out the Mistblade, that can be a very, very risky line to go for.
Like Bird reaching for that Art of Desire mind here. Going to go after Andrew Cook.
So currently no disruptive on hit representative here, but is representing another activation on Mask of Recurring Nightmares.
Going to be just a Nick added on to that Art of Desire, looking to push a little damage, and then Hiss comes down as well.
And this will banish top 2 cards from Andrew Cook's deck, and this is another aspect.
Please tell me that we're
can actually be quite relevant.
Killing an aura here, not playing the Command and Conquer.
Andrew Cook cannot afford to lose from his deck, and that
I really don't like this Command and Conquer as an arsenal, though, to be honest.
Flips into Soraya, Archangel of Erudition. These random banishes off the top, Brian, can sometimes lead to that critical Figment being banished off the top, and that can just change the entire texture of this game.
We'll see what comes off the top of the deck here for Andrew.
Oh, lucky.
Couple of heralds.
That is a blue, though, so Out of Desire Mind will draw Bird a card, and she does have an action point thanks to the Slither token, and will also gain a life. Looks like she drew up the Venomous Bite from that hand.
Beckoning Mistblade is going to be used to go ahead and clear out that Genesis. And now we move to Arsenal. Andrew Cook at 23. This is the way Prism lives her life. Immediately put under life total pressure. Just on the back of a measly blue, pumped up a couple times.
Interesting. Arsenal decision here for Bird. Has the Popper in hand, but the opponent has a Passing Mirage on the field already. still decides to go ahead and Arsenal to react, keep the Popper in hand in case Andrew Cook does a doubled Herald turn.
Makes sense to me. Herald of Ravage is going to kick things off.
Kind of interesting. He's playing the Vestige, but he decided to keep in Red Heralds. That's like not typically something that I like doing. If I'm doing combo shenanigans, I want to make sure that I have maximum pitch cards in my deck. Interesting choice. I do like Herald spam into new now, though. Now that they're playing typically less poppers, and you don't have the tomes anymore.
How important it is to go ahead and deny that soul.
That pitch card for Andrew is extremely relevant. Now he knows that Figment of Erudition is at the bottom of his deck until he shuffles, which means he doesn't need to worry about any random banishes off the top, which is one of the ways he can lose this game out of nowhere.
Has time to work with, does Andrew, before that card comes back around. And
surely that never comes back around.
See a little grimace on her face as she sees the Figment.
Not great that's in hand, but it's fine that it's going to be on the bottom.
Exactly right, Andrew. You've bought yourself some safety. Bird with a subtle nod as she acknowledges things just got a little bit harder just by virtue of that card entering the pitch zone.
And you have to imagine Andrew Cook seeing the Art of Desire with the Justin Nick as well. Knew he was safe, knew that Figment was safe because it was sitting comfortably in his hand.
That does make that block
Bird
more
has
interesting.
A nice hand here in terms of offering some damage, getting wide. But you are incentivized to defend because of these Figments. But I will say the fact that the Erudition is in the pitch zone means if you're going to go ahead and let a Herald hit, this is a good time to do so.
So it won't be a Figment of Erudition for Andrew Cook over here.
I'm guessing he grabs a Rebirth. He really likes Rebirth.
Figment of Protection, very, very strong.
I guess War would make a lot of sense here if he's going second Herald.
On hits of the daggers through, and that Figment comes into the field with a Spectral Shield itself, and that is.
Is he playing a Merciful here?
Andrew Cook. Also need to remember, Vestige of Soul is online because a card has entered his soul.
Yeah, I think particularly reasonable to go Protection, given that Bird has just kept a full grip here.
And here's the punish for holding the Popper. The first Herald didn't have Phantasm thanks to Passing Mirage, and the second one is Popper-proof completely because Bird's deck doesn't have a single 7-power Popper.
Yeah, those 6-power Poppers can feel so bad sometimes against Prism. It really is 7, that's the magic number, but you still have to execute your game plan. How much are you actually willing to give over to this Prism matchup? Prism, a reasonable portion of the field, but certainly not an overwhelming portion of the field. And in fact, this whole field is so open. Even things like Midas Touch, you know, I can joke and say, oh, every deck's about to add 3 Midas Touch. It's not that easy, Ponkage. Even if Gravy is very good, what percentage of the field is it going to be? Can you actually justify that level of sideboard investment?
It is a strange dynamic where it's not that represented, but when you play across a Prism at an event of this level, you know they are good. And so while you might not need those pieces that often, when you do need them, you kind of really need them because the opponent is going to be very, very well practiced and very, very good on that hero. Once again, Bird deciding whether she wants to just let this Herald on hit go through. Figment of Erudition won't.
I'm kind of a fan of just like blocking this and picking off an aura.
But also, holding a CNC when your opponent's off an Arsenal doesn't feel very good either.
And Bird is just going to take one more time, so damage is flying fast and furious in the early turn.
I guess if she has a really aggressive hand, this makes sense. Maybe we can kill him before it matters.
Resource here knows you have to get after the Prism before they get set up, but the problem is when
he is low enough that he's like potentially in range of dying in 2 turns.
So Andrew also has 2 floating over here. Have to wonder whether he wants to activate Prism on this end step, get an extra ward 4. If you see Bird holding a full 5-card grip, maybe want to protect.
I'm kind of into getting a Figment and flipping here since she kept the grip.
That he doesn't mind throwing away.
Just get like a throwaway.
Ward 4 on that with the Ward 1 and Spectral Shield as well. Figment of Judgment seems
I'm kind of scared.
Oh! The least relevant effects, to be sure. So I think you're exactly right, Ponkage. This could just be viewed as a disposable Figment here.
And between a shield and a Ward 4, he is quite insulated against daggers, against many, many things that New wants to try and throw at him.
So a little bit extra ward rolled up here in addition to that Spectral Shield, making things harder on Bird Again, I feel like I see a slight grimace on her face, but look, this is just how this matchup is going to go. She knows there's going to be a lot of just slow grinding and posturing. You have to put in the work to beat Prism, especially in the hands of a skilled player like Andrew Cook.
Pain in the backside in the hand for Bird Cabrera. Card that can be very, very strong in this matchup against Illusionists, against board state classes. You do want as much go again as you can fit. And Pain in the backside offers another on hit as well, which you can use the Mystic Assassin attack reactions on. And we know that Bird has a Venomous Bite in her arsenal. So you can play the Venomous Bite on the Pain in the backside, which will go over the ward value that Andrew Cook has right now, force through a Mistblade on hit as well to power up the levels of Enlightenment that she's currently holding. So she is quite set
that's
up
pretty
for a
good.
pretty strong
I never
turn
considered
here
Pain in
if
the
Andrew
backside
Cook decides
levels.
not to block the Pain in the backside.
Here is that Pain in the backside now deployed. Action passes back over to Andrew Cook. We'll take a look at the hand here. 3 no blocks once again.
2 no blocks and 1 2 block.
1 2 block, yep.
Effectively doesn't block as well.
So options feel a little thin defensively again for Andrew Cook, but mercifully has the ward built up this go around.
I feel like he's just gonna go for it here.
I've loved Pain in the backside in New, just because of the flexibility it gives you with the Assassin Reacts. You can play something like a Hiss on it and just hold on to the Slither for, say, a follow-up CNC, and then play something else after that as well, maybe something like a Codex. Looks like there was no attack reaction played on the Pain in the backside, so the Angel just eats that up. Bird Cabrera choosing to hold on to the Venomous Bite in Arsenal for the Surgical Extraction instead.
Makes sense. This is the on-hit you probably want to get full value out of here. Andrew evaded it carefully the previous time Surgical Extraction came up.
One of the intricacies in this matchup is that when
It's going.
Prism has a Figment of the and Soul,
We're on
that is
third
yet
game
another
of top 8 right
reaction
now.
they just
Watching
have on
the
board. So Venomous Bite coming in for 4.
Interesting
If
Prism
Andrew
game.
Cook blocks the first round of Surgical Extraction somehow, he can still dodge the on hit by just flipping the Figment of Protection.
So far we
Although Figment
watched
of Protection,
Lucas's
unlike the
loss
Figment of
as Verdance
Judgment,
versus
a
Azalea,
little less disposable.
and then
You really want to try and get
Jacob
an
win
army
with
special
Gravy
shield
versus
that just
Florian.
insulates you from all the daggers.
Andrew Cook again put to a tough decision right away. Only 3 turns in. But so much to think about for both of these players. Each go around here.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of these yet.
Deployed, and the Venomous Bite comes over the top.
I watched like a little bit of them when it was like going on, like at Vegas.
All the way up
Like I
to
watched part of
He blocked
Lucas's
for
game
exactly
in the
the three block
Uber
with Spectral
to
Shield.
the
Is he
convention
going to
center.
flip over the Figment of Protection right now to just save himself from
And then when I got there, I sat down next to Lucas, who had already lost, finding out that it was not live.
Clears out
And then I watched the
hand
end of the
here,
game with him.
brings in the Merciful Retribution.
And that'll be hit. I'm taking 4 after the Spectral Shield. 19.
Once again, Andrew Cook finding the line that just lets him empty his hand and dodge the hand disruption.
Surgical Extraction hit this time, so we will get a banish.
One Arcane thanks to a Spectral Shield as well, going Bird Cabrera's way. And she has no
Yeah,
Arcane
Lucas's
barrier
game
once
was pretty
again. One of the
unfortunate.
win conditions-
He decomposed pretty early, but then he couldn't find the cards to let him physically close the game. He was just in the waiting room all game for like a rampant growth. And then the turn he finally drew a hand that kills, he bleeded out too much where he had to block on that hand. And then he was just 1 point short of a Strider's kill for like 3 turns. He had opponent was at 9 with the Quiver in play, and Lucas had exactly 9 arcane damage for multiple turns. Oh, it was so
as Andrew
unfortunate.
Cook is able to set up. But have to point out, Bird Cabrera has been taking the tempo from Andrew to some extent because he keeps emptying his hand, but is falling behind on board state. Those are 2 scary Spectra auras to just leave on the board.
Bird has to be able to generate.
So at this point in the game, what needs to happen for Andrew to win is one of 2 things. Bird comes in kind of soft, and he's able to keep a big grip and just push, and then just kind of flip the game. Or Bird doesn't have enough damage to like kill him, and he's able to play an Arc Light and then go to and just tell her to fuck off for a turn, and then he's able to keep a fat hand because of that, and then go off from there. Like, what if Bird just like throws Disruption at his face and he just plays an Arc Light? The Arc Light stays. Bird spends her entire turn killing the Arc Light, and now Andrew's able to play the game. Like, essentially, we need to find a spot to keep an entire hand, and if we can, I think Andrew's very likely to win, though it's a little dependent on the top of his deck. Him having 2 permanents in play, and importantly, his passing Merciful, is really good. His Heralds are pretty good here. His Figment of Protection that's in play is really good because of the Merciful. There's a world where he flips the protection on Bird's turn, goes to his turn, cracks Halo, grabs Erudition, and then just plays both of his Figments out and just like swings with both of them. That's pretty hard to deal with from her side. And then he can just spam Heralds for the rest of the game after that because she just has to deal with that board and takes a lot of damage dealing with it. Yeah, he was 1 damage short for multiple rounds. And then on the very last turn of the game, if he had more... He was 1 damage short, but if one of the cards in his hand was a blue instead of a red, he also would have had it. Because he didn't have the resources to crack his hat and do the thing. Yeah, it was just a unfortunate draw sequence on Lucas's side. I do think Lucas made 1 mistake during the game, but it was like, I don't know, kind of hard to tell if that's a mistake.
And to be able to effectively offer offense and clean up these Spectras. Enlightened Strike, a good way to do so. Double Trouble also in the mix here, plenty of resources.
And I believe Command and Conquer is what hit the arsenal on Bird Cabrera's side.
Yeah, I really hate arsenaling action point negative cards in this matchup on the new side.
Expecting 5 go again to be the mode here. Double Trouble bottomed. Back over to Andrew Cook. Soul Shield at the ready for defenses this go around should he need it. Herald of Erudition also making...
Yeah, if we can get through the turn, this is a great hand. I don't give a shit about this E-Strike. Show me some Disruption. And if you have Disruption, okay, whatever, I'll Soul Shield and go next. I just want to keep these cards and just try going off, I think. We're getting too low or we're running out of time. So, like, I think I just want to go as soon as I get to keep a hand.
Soul Shield at the ready for defenses this go around should he need it. Herald of Erudition also making its first appearance, and another backup copy of Pierced Reality. Excuse me, the first copy of Pierced Reality.
Herald of Erudition, wild as a passing mirage on the board. However, Bird does have equipment to cover up that 5 and no backup of an Angelic Wrath currently in Andrew Cook's hand.
It's like the Footsteps going to get in the mix here. That tells me we're trying to probably...
I am not a fan of this. I think I just want to
probably
pop off this turn.
Soul Shield over here, which could be a bit of a tell for Bird Cabrera as well. When you see the Prism leave 2 floating and put Footsteps on the field, you can fully expect a Soul Shield back up. It could be a Prism flip as well, but quite often it can be a Soul Shield, and we know she's holding.
We can only use gloves here on
whether maybe she wants to
Mystic attacks or Assassin attacks or something, right? We can't
yeah, I think Bird
Fang Strike the E-Strike, can we? Oh, I guess we can.
Footsteps potentially. So we're going to go up to 6 on that Enlightened Strike.
Goodbye, Footsteps.
Which will blow up the Phantasmal Footsteps.
How big of a win is this, Punkage?
It is so interesting because firstly she hadn't blocked with a Rousing Wave yet, and a Rousing Wave typically a key component to turn on something like a Bonds of Agony. So the fact that she just lost that without being able to block with it as well can be a bit of a tough loss, but also on Andrew Cook's side, no Footsteps means that if Bird can clear this passing mirage, and at some point...
I'm not a fan of attacking with the Command and Conquer here, but I get it.
It can just completely stuff
Andrew already committed 1 card to defense. Obviously, there's a Soul Shield coming down because he blocked with the Footsteps.
Look, it was
and it's not like he's going to pop off on a 3-card hand. I think this is a pretty good punish based on what he did. This is why I didn't want to block with Footsteps. Like, not only the blow-up part, but just... I just don't want to give up any cards here. I just want to go off. Like, prove to me you have Disruption.
Leaving up 2 floating, and Bird notices that and says, okay, here's a CNC, I'm going to punish that Soul Shield that you're holding. Very, very just excellent play by Bird Cabrera. Andrew Cook deciding if he wants to use the 2 floating to flip up the Figment on Bird Cabrera's end step.
You kind of have to at this point. You're priced into it. Now you got to do protection things. We kind of painted ourselves in a corner with this play.
I think Bird Cabrera has taken the lead over here, and of course Andrew Cook is all the way down to 8.
Do you think the way these turns have broken have changed Bird's posture at all? Is there a world where she can start to ignore some of this board state and really try and get Andrew Cook dead?
I think she can start, maybe the Spectra you can ignore a little bit, but these Angels, Brian,
sure, they assert themselves in the game.
They are extra life that Andrew Cook has to work with. He has effectively 12 life right now, and especially Aegis, Archangel of Protection, makes more Spectral Shields, makes more virtual life.
Over on Andrew's side, we are looking at 2 powerful Heralds here.
And Bird Cabrera used her Rousing Wave, so currently, unless she has a defense reaction, might find it a little bit...
The thing that sucks here, too, is we burn all of our soul. So now we don't have the soul to pop off anymore.
She does, in fact, have a shelter in hand here. So clean block available to Bird. Couldn't do it any quicker. Yeah, Andrew realized there was a good window there, but Bird did draw the shelter.
Hey, whatever. Even if she didn't, she just give up her mask. The mask isn't that important anymore.
Is he going to swing Aegis to make a couple of shields? Looks like it will be, but is going down to 0 soul as he does that. Very, very important resource for Andrew Cook. But Spectral Shields as well against a deck that has these pesky little daggers that have pretty debilitating on hits as well. He's still set up fairly defensively, but on the back foot.
I might still crack Halo, but I guess we have life.
Here, 4 on the offensive side, 6 offered on the defensive side with 2 Spectral Shields and some ward. Bird looking to kick things off here, perhaps with the Art of Desire Mind. Once again, has just a Nick in hand to pair with that card. We saw that in the early turns of this game. And we're back on Andrew Cook's side, and I see a couple of Arclight Sentinels picked up. 5 block value in this hand in total. And no blocks on this Art of Desire, and it's time for a Passover to go ahead and pick up another Chi. Perhaps for the last time, Pankaj, where we see Chi.
Do you crack Halo here to brick this? I don't think it's worth it. There's like a debate. You can, depending on what she targets, you could Halo for Rebirth, target the card she targets, and brick the Chi. Would I do that? Probably not. I don't think you can win doing that. I don't know how we win anymore, to be honest, though. With us on 0 soul.
Actually used.
I think it's Jover.
The other 2 part the Mistveil heroes now gone. Maybe New looking to join them if Bird Cabrera can go ahead and finish the job here.
And she is currently on the front foot, so it very well might happen. This
More Judge Falls.
Come back to Judge.
Passover target currently being chosen.
Probably asking how that works with Halo.
Figment of Rebirth is a card that Andrew Cook has access to. You could potentially...
Doesn't matter if she targeted something you can't Halo.
That he won't be able to recur. Plus he has to deal with Mask of Recurring Nightmares. Though once again does have the option to just dodge the hand disruption by playing out an Arclight Sentinel. But again, just feels like he's pausing the game turn to turn as his life...
No, the Arclight's actually really good here. Because you buy space to Halo. The problem is we don't have any soul. But because we have the Merciful out, if she'll hit the ALS, and then that'll go to our soul. So then when we crack our Halo, we'll go to 2 soul. So we can actually do the thing. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a good story, having the 2 heroes about to LL in the finals. And I think from Brian's POV, that's probably what he wants the most. Whatever's going to be the most exciting for the viewers or for the story of the game. I don't know if he necessarily has much of a horse in that race of any particular deck, though. He probably biases a little Assassin. He's Assassin enjoyer. But I agree that would be pretty entertaining to see which hero is going to LL if that happened. But yeah, back to this game. I'm pretty into playing this ALS if we're allowed to, but we don't do it here. We wait and see what Bird does. Because we don't want to play the ALS, and then she cracks her boots and then kills it. That's just doomer. Oh, she's activating Mask, though, so we have to make a decision right away. Yeah, that's tough. I don't think we have a good choice. I think I just let this resolve then. And just, like, lose a card. And just hope.
Andrew again, having a think.
Because we're just going to trade our whole hand for the boots.
It feels like nothing has come easy in this game so far for Andrew. Kind of never does for Prism players. You have to scratch and claw for every single inch in most matchups.
Especially when you're against a disruptive deck like New Alluring Desire. Just a Nick in Bird's hand, though, will not go over the current 6 ward. We'll need another pump. Didn't quite get a catch of what the arsenal is.
So many options on every turn for a Prism player. You can deploy a lot of your hand at instant speed. There's on-board shenanigans to deal with.
Speaking of on-board shenanigans, Halo of Illumination, not something
always have to consider.
Hasn't come to play yet, but as these live totals dwindle down, you know Andrew Cook is looking for the most effective use of that extremely powerful card.
Especially as Andrew Cook has run out of soul, as you mentioned, Ponkage, and that will be meaningful going forward. He's not able to refresh that very limited resource.
Especially when the opponent has sort of put him in a blender, just hasn't been able to find a footing in this game so far. Turn after turn, Bird has found the disruption that she needs, has kept him firmly on the back foot. Never, I think the last time we saw Herald being played was, I don't know, turn 2 or something? It's been a while.
It looks like Arclight Sentinel going to be the banish here, and now we follow up with the Just a Nick and into Venomous Bite from Bird. Fang Strike added into the mix, so the damage is now clearing that ward handily.
And a measly 1 damage attack is out of nowhere. Suddenly 10 going 4 over the ward that Andrew Cook has. Not lethal, but does promise.
I wonder if you're supposed to crack Halo here. And just hope that you get the resources to play the ALS with the Vestige active. I guess you always do, right? You pitch the blue aura, float 2, put a guy in your soul, draw. No, you don't always. You have to draw blue. Yeah, it's tough.
Top as well.
Yeah, Bird also with the possibility to refresh card in hand if she's able to get lucky on that Art of Desire banish. Set up an arsenal. Could also banish a key piece from Andrew Cook's deck should this land, and I think it is going to. Drew has this a little block there, but you do see the Herald of Erudition again with an Arclight Sentinel. That Herald of Erudition in this scenario looks to be well set up to succeed, Ponkage. No more disposable block on the equipment.
You have to commend Bird's player, her recognition of threat assessment.
I think that Command and Conquer probably won the game.
Has been on
that specific turn with the block footsteps into Command and Conquer.
Has not been
that was a really good turn for our Bird.
Put you in the blender and just don't let you keep a big hand. That passing mirage is effectively textless.
Miss here for Bird on the banish. Did not find the goods, unfortunately. And now draws back up. I'm going to check in on her hand first. Again, Art of Desire Mind, part of the equation. Looks like a Siren's Call, Fate Foreseen.
Correct. So not a lot of disruption in that hand except that Siren's Call. But of course, Siren's Call against Prism can definitely whiff.
I wonder if this Erudition can just win the Tunic here from Bird.
Only 17 blues to speak of in the Prism list. In the entire 80, you don't know if you even brought all of them in. Sometimes the blue heralds can be quite scary. New can steal them and send them at you.
So we've seen some. We don't know if the full suite is there.
Which makes Siren's Call a little bit less reliable, especially when you're off Tunic as well. However, currently in Andrew Cook,
I think it's basically impossible for Andrew to win at this point unless Bird just like has a shit turn.
However, sort of caught in a hard place right now. I believe that's his last Arclight Sentinel. It's going to be a key piece for the big Prism combo turn where you set up the Archangel of Erudition and then back it up with an Arclight Sentinel. You can't just pitch it away right now. At the same time, if you pitch a blue for the Herald of Erudition, then it doesn't have go again, and how threatening is that on-hit then?
Great point, Ponkage. And Andrew Cook is forced to debate all of this. So much to consider on a turn-to-turn basis for Andrew.
The fact that that's a third Arclight Sentinel makes this an incredibly tough choice for Andrew Cook.
Honestly, I don't think the third Arclight actually
Assume that's what he's
materially
counting for when he goes ahead and checks.
changes this game because of how far behind Andrew is. I don't think he ever has space to even do the thing
Yeah,
anymore.
so she's going to see that third one head to the bottom, and that's a lot of information, Punkage, that you could use to your benefit. And now Andrew Cook is going to go ahead and reach for that halo of illumination.
I think
It's
your only path to
time
victory is she has
for
a
that
Mopey turn
one
here.
Get out of jail free card. Looks like the answer is yes. Halo going to do its thing.
This is a bit of a desperation play, Brian. Prism is praying to Solana to give her some solace as she activates this Halo.
I think Andrew did.
Yeah, I could definitely see that with
Herald on
Gravy.
the draw, if I saw correctly, which seems like a big deal.
A blue in the pitch, though, so the Herald will not have go again if he goes ahead and deploys it.
Gravy feels a little bit like they did not learn from their previous design mistakes. We know Dromai was incredibly strong and oppressive. So we took the weaknesses out of Dromai, no Phantasm, and we don't have the cringe, you have to do things with reds, the cringe minigame with Ash. And we replaced that with a deck who all of his best cards are pitch cards. And we know historically that decks whose best cards are their pitch cards, like the more that you're trying to cast your blues in a deck, the better your deck typically is. And that's all Gravy is trying to do. He's trying to cast his pitch cards. So this feels like they took the best parts of Dromai and Enigma and kind of combined them. And then gave the deck a ton of card selection and card filtering. I am a little concerned. Granted, he does have some weaknesses, like fatigue, graveyard hate, inability to block sometimes. The deck building puzzle of the deck is very high, though I think the deck building puzzle is more of a early on in the deck's lifespan issue, especially for specifically Nationals, because that's just going to get solved. Like, people are going to figure out the deck building puzzle, and then that will cease to be a problem. And I do think the deck is very difficult to play. I think Gravy potentially is the hardest deck to play in the game ever, or the second hardest next to a Chain where you're pitch stacking and like making sure that you're hitting 4 blues when you hit your stack, and then your shackles are all blood deck cards. Like, outside of that, I think this is the hardest deck in the game to play. You have so many decision trees in the deck because of how many options you have, and so many hoops to jump through on a turn-to-turn basis. But that doesn't take away from the strength of the deck. That just means the deck's very skill expressive, which I like. I think the game needs more skill expressive decks mechanically. I am a little concerned about Gravy's power level of just them not learning from their mistakes.
What is the figment of choice for Andrew Cook over here? Also just one card in Soul, which means that you won't be able to find a Figment, flip it, and also get the added effect on the Angel on the other half of the Figment. You need 2 Soul to do that play. Andrew Cook, with his back against the wall, has decided to go for the Halo play. Not the sort of Halo play that he wants.
Yeah, you know, this can also often just turn the game in and of itself. I think this is more about doing something, keeping some mode of survival together. Figment of Rebirth here. Gonna go ahead and get a rebuy of a yellow action card.
Enters.
And he already knows that Passover has been used, so no fizzling of that happening here.
Yeah, totally safe. Herald of Erudition does go on top of the deck.
Prism activated.
I mean, I don't think you would pass over putting Herald on top of the deck.
Attack with the
Who
Angel,
fucking cares?
Again by putting Merciful in the pit zone, but
The Erudition isn't even good. There's still
one
armor on the
floating
table.
thanks to Vestige of Soul, but no soul remaining for this Prism.
Bird knows that that Herald of Erudition has gone to the top of the deck. She does have a Fate Foreseen, could be an opportunity to go ahead and set that up in Arsenal.
Yeah, Gravy's pretty demanding on your deck to be able to actually play against it.
From the Avalon, as we mentioned, no soul left at this moment.
An Arclight Sentinel going to go to Andrew Cook's Arsenal at the end of this turn. It's a very important card in this matchup, and that is his last copy. He's holding on to it, needs to try and find the opportune time. Normally, you want to pair that with the Halo, but he had to make that Halo desperation play. That ALS needs to come out at some other time. He's hoping that Bird whiffs a little bit on disruption and that he can find a footing in this game because he's running out of life to work with.
Bird has pulled that Fate Foreseen to the front. Wants to just get a clean block, perhaps, on this Angel. Really thinking about this block.
So the Siren's Call makes it awkward because of the random draw. You don't want to commit to Arseling a D-React and also commit to playing Siren's Call on your turn because they can make your Arsenal, you might end up IP.
This is why I love having Punkage on casting. That like little nuance of playing new.
Is on the top of
it's so nice having him.
So potentially just looking to Arsenal a Fate Foreseen.
Yeah, and just going with the E-Strike line, going to offer 7 damage and set up the Arsenal here. Over on Andrew's side, we'll try and get a look at the defensive options. Finally, with some 3 blocks in hand for the first time, it feels like.
2 blues as well, which gives him a very nice resource curve where you get to send Herald of Erudition and then also just play an ALS regardless of how Bird decides to deal with it. 7 though, with the Ward 4 on the table right now, would put him to 1 if he declares no blocks. Good news for him, he has already seen Grain that tips the scale. And Arousing Wave is off the field as well, so his E-Strike is 7. And that's it. So he knows it's not going to be lethal. Of course, Undertow Stilettos could come into play, but then...
Stilettos plus Dagger.
Take 3, go to 1.
Going to 1 is
Andrew just takes here and falls to 1 life. Everything...
This is how he could potentially win.
Yeah, and Andrew, look, this is
the only way he could win.
I cannot tell
Came
you
in soft.
how many games I've seen Prism win at 1 life. Maybe
Time to swindle.
Any other hero. And at 1 life in these kind of deficits, 1 to 19, and this is often how it goes. Arclight Sentinel buys the time needed to go ahead and reset. Can it do it once more here for Andrew Cook?
And a backup of Pierce Reality as well. Now that is a very scary Spectra setup. Pierce Reality and Passing Mirage. Will these top 4 cards of Andrew Cook's deck...
I don't know where this ball came from, but it's apparently already sorted.
Spectra pieces.
Fucking weird.
Bird gonna go ahead and play Rising Sun, Setting Moon. Looking to refresh the hand a little bit.
That's another Herald of Erudition. That'll come in for 7. No
Library is not really what you want to see here, to be honest.
Wrath backing it up as well. We know Bird has a D-React in Arsenal.
That Angelic Wrath could pose some problems, though, for Bird. And there's not going to be much to offer on this turd package, as it often does. Arclight Sentinel fully stealing the tempo. The last one in the deck, we believe.
I love this play from Bird. When you're under Arclight Sentinel, you know you're just going to be sending 1 attack at it. Try and make the best use of the rest of your hand. She plays the Rising Sun, not transcending, just getting a little bit of filtering, using a whole card just to filter a little bit. What's it called?
Try to dig for poppers or something.
Bit of efficiencies you need to try and gain to come out ahead, to make top 8 of US Nationals. On Andrew Cook's side, because of Merciful Retribution, because the Spectra was left there this entire game, the Arclight Sentinel goes to Soul. He has 1 soul to work with, no Figments yet though. Let's see if the Herald of Erudition has something to say about that.
This does need to hit.
For 7, we know Bird with the reaction in Arsenal. But Andrew Cook maybe with more to offer from the hand. There is the Fate Foreseen.
And you had to wonder, was Bird going to play around Angelic Wrath by giving up some of the equipment? Opponents at 1.
I think it's worth giving up equipment here.
Mask and tuning it. She opted not to play around Angelic Wrath. Is going to come in. Going to be a bit of a blowout.
15. And Erudition gets the job done. It's going to head to Soul. It's going to get a Figment. And it's going to pick up 2 cards for Andrew Cook. And what can he put together with the rest of this turn?
And he has 2 soul thanks to the Merciful Retribution. Could go for the Figment of Erudition. Looks like that is going to be the play. I have to point out though, he's holding on to Great Library of Solana. That card not really great at this point in the game. You want that early in the game, the first few turns, not on turn 8.
Thankfully, many more cards to work with for Andrew Cook here. Still has the Angel Go again on offer from that Luminaris Angel's Glow. So this turn not anywhere near over yet, Pankaj. Still a lot more to do for Andrew. Prism is now activated. That's going to go ahead and flip that Figment as we see Soraya go ahead and enter the arena. And she can't wait to rumble. Gets in the mix, picks up 2 more cards for Andrew Cook.
And suddenly Andrew Cook is right back in the game. Remember, Soraya is also representing Ward 4. It looks like he's at 1. He's actually a functional 5. And there's more to come. The turn is not done. He has sent 14 damage this turn and still has 4 cards remaining. That is the strength of Prism when she has a bit of soul, when you give her the full grip.
Now the offense may slow down on this turn, but there's no way that the Spectras do.
Genesis.
Cards are pitched here to go ahead and deploy the Genesis.
And then...
And there is the library as well.
Steal 1 Arcane.
So manage to use that hand fully effectively. Also pointing out when the Ponder token pops, it does deal 1 arcane damage thanks to Merciful Retribution. Will have an effective 6-card hand, but have to point out he went ahead and pitched that Soul Shield. Could be a very effective defensive piece should he need it, depending on Bird.
Yeah, honestly, like, there's a chance he could stabilize here, but it's pretty slim.
What can she do to Andrew Cook's 6?
This feels like the whole ball game, Pankaj.
That being said, he doesn't have any soul, so this Erudition doesn't actually do anything right now.
Fully set up at this point. Can't
I think
have
he just sacked the
much better
Erudition.
stuff as a Prism, but it's at 1
With Ward 4.
with Ward 4. Virtual 5. Pain in the backside to kick things off here.
It's a pretty good start.
Representing potential attack reactions, and he has no Figments and no soul, so unless he has defense reactions of his own, might not be able to play around the potential of attack reactions. He needs to think about that as he decides these blocks. Unless he picked up another soul shield.
At the 5 cards of Andrew's hand. Does quickly defend here just for 3.
Keeping himself safe from Venomous Bite, because now if Bird has Venomous Bite, Soraya would soak it up.
Time for a dagger. It's going to be the Beckoning Mistblade. And the last card in hand for Bird Cabrera.
You may have my
Codex
finest
of Frail.
vestige of soul.
Turn is not over yet.
Tunic up, 1 floating, will be able to find a CNC as well. And this Mistblade is threatening the Archangel of Erudition. Vestige of Soul could come into play here. Beckoning Mistblade does not have piercing. So you have to wonder if that equipment does come out to block this. Bird might regret sending that dagger instead of a Spider's Bite, which does have piercing.
Yeah, feels like a Spider's Bite play clearly, Pankaj. I don't see the downside potentially in Spider's Bite here.
Because you aren't threatening the on-hit ever, because Soraya
Correct.
exists to soak it up anyway.
Ultimately, doesn't matter. Does just get a card
No
here
chest
from
block is
Andrew.
surprising.
And now last card in hand is the Codex. Have to assume this is coming out here.
Just love the body language from Andrew right now. Stone cold, staring across the table. What are you going to do about this? So Bird Cabrera has options over here. You could instead go for Tunic Dagger and then Codex at 0 cost instead of Codex for CNC.
I think I like it, Pankaj. Isn't it just
I think I like
about
that play.
being awkward against
Especially
the
since he
board?
didn't commit the Vestige. Now the Vestige can't block the Spider's Bite.
I believe that's exactly what she's thinking about.
Has potential to win you 3 cards as opposed to the 2 that CNC represents. It really depends on the block values in Andrew's hands.
So I don't believe we have seen a Leave No Witnesses, have we? She's not resolved one. I don't know if she's blocked with one. Because if that's not available, and you're just getting a 3 power?
I do remember
So
seeing
the
one
one
at a
reason you
point-
wouldn't want to do that was if he has a Soul Shield here, that's pretty bad. Because then he could just Soul Shield the Leave No Witnesses or whatever the fuck she grabs, and now the Soraya actually has Soul to do the thing with. Where neither of these attacks are really profitable to Soul Shield. It's like a pretty big punish if there's a Soul Shield somewhere in here.
In this game, I don't remember what happened with it. I think it may have been defended with, but I can't say that with 100% certainty.
3, yeah. Rebirth.
So that's exactly. If there's a Leave No Witnesses, that's what she's thinking about. Do you want to send 1 into 4 or just send a 6?
Bird says this is weird. As these games often are against Prism, they're just sort of unlike anything else in Flesh and Blood.
None of this is good.
She doesn't like any of her options, but it is going to be the dagger here.
And now you have to wonder, does Andrew Cook regret not blocking a Vestige of Soul on the non-piercing dagger? No Codex? Oh, no, closing the chain to Codex. Okay, it wasn't ending to closing the chain to Codex. Was there a leave no witnesses?
We do have
there
the
was.
no witnesses. Yep.
Soraya
Oh, I guess
got a
it
clean
actually
ward for
ignore what I
Tappana.
said because you just leave no witness the Shariah directly. You don't go face with it. Never mind. Never mind. This is nice. So you like buy more cards from him and then still clear the Shariah. So he like blocked out and didn't actually accomplish anything. Never mind. Never mind.
And that would be an sad angel to lose, but he is set up with Genesis, Merciful, Passing Mirage, Pierce Reality as well. Game is not over.
Was that a win for Bird, or is it just kind of like holding ground, trying not to get buried?
It's holding on, but she's at 10 right now with Passing Mirage and Pierce Reality. These heralds.
Also, he's down to 2 cards. So it's going to be pretty difficult for him to actually trigger Library this turn. So stripping a bunch of cards is like a really big deal. If he was able to like block Chest there instead and keep an extra card, he's like actually probably ahead here because then he triggers the Library and plays a 4-card hand. A 4-card hand probably buys at least 2 cards. And then the Soul Shield trades for one of the daggers on the next round.
Will be massive. And remember, there is a Spectral Shield as well, thanks to the Genesis, so those daggers now suddenly look a lot less scary.
Does have a Fate Foreseen for a little bit of extra block value in hand.
But I don't think Andrew Cook found a yellow. I believe he's holding on Pierce Reality and the Blue Herald, so won't be able to threaten Go again.
I mean, that is what happens when you block with every card in your hand that physically defends.
And we don't know Arsenal, correct?
Typically, most of your cards that
I don't
defend
think
are
so.
the
That was a
yellows.
random ponder
Yeah,
from
draw off the ponder.
I believe. Oh no, okay, he's a yellow herald, but the herald is yellow, so you can't give that Go again by pitching a blue. But it is a herald of protection though, that is very, very relevant. The on-hit of getting an extra Spectral Shield can be the difference between life and death.
I wonder if we're dealing with equipment again. Is that something that we want to bring into play in conjunction with that Fate Foreseen? Try and deny that little bit of defense.
Because that will be a massive herald thanks to Pierce Reality.
I do really like the choice from Bird also to just like leave the passing up. I believe they said earlier that she's only playing Command and Conquers as poppers. So the passing like isn't really even that good for Andrew. So she's like, whatever, you spent a card to do nothing. I'm just going to play my Command and Conquers. It's not that deep. And this being open deck list, she knows that. But then that being open deck list, Andrew also knows that. And that was his turn 1 play where he just went Passing Mirage pass, Arsenal IP2.
If he managed to get the Figment.
I'm curious what his hand was.
Is going to fire off that Herald of Protection. Will take some combination of multiple cards here to get out from under this for Bird, or she can roll the dice a little bit, play a big hand. There we see the equipment reached for.
I don't think he rolled the dice. He's at 1.
On this Herald, no Phantasm either though.
If he defends with all the cards in his hand that defend, then he probably can't take a turn because all the cards. There's no small hand he can play with cards that don't defend.
On hit of the Spectral Shield.
Bird did not love that defense. Found something that put her off her original plan. Wants to go back and consider it one more time.
And we can see what's making.
Fate Foreseen, Sacred Art, Bonds. Interesting. Do we know what the Arsenal is?
Things awkward. It's that Sacred Art, Brian. That card can be. It's a very.
Yeah, whatever. Just block 8 and move on with life, right? Like, whatever.
Very resource-intensive card. You need to keep a big hand to make full use of it.
Yeah, but Bird does ultimately want to full defend here. Reveals a CNC on the top of the deck. Unfortunately, time for poppers has been never in this game. Just complete protection all game long for Andrew on the back of that Passing Mirage. Literally his first turn, that's all he did. And it's been present the entire time. Subtle ripple effects throughout this entire game.
And we commended Bird for recognizing that she just had to go face, leave the Spectres on the field, but that is what sometimes can happen. The Prism player sometimes gets to sculpt these end states that punish you for leaving their broad state around. Frailty pops, dealing 1 arcane thanks to Merciful Retribution. What can Bird Cabrera do with 3 cards? Bonds of Agony
Reverse
in
Uno, you
hand
take 1.
could potentially go for a bluff play. I believe her arsenal was also the random ponder from the Codex of Frailty. Was it an attack reaction? Because she does have 2 on the board in the form of Undertow Stilettos.
And she still has her boots up, which is kind of a big deal.
4,000 viewers joining us for this intense quarterfinal match. It's only going to escalate from here, folks. You do not want to go anywhere. Stick with us for the rest of this incredible top 8. Beckoning Mistblade kicks things off here from Bird. 1 resource floating, 1 go again.
No piercing on this. And no way to count this attack, but Siren's Call is a possible attack reaction to be played on daggers. Andrew Cook has already seen 1 copy of it, I believe. It was blocked with.
Of course, we're at the open decklist stage of the tournament, so Andrew knows what he could be vulnerable to. Taking a look at Andrew's hand. Figment in hand, but 2 block, 3 block, 3 block. Decent defensive values at the ready.
Also has Vestige of Soul to try and cover pesky non-piercing 1 attacks. However, when you have a Genesis on the field, that Vestige of Soul represents a lot of effective resources. Potentially that's why he didn't want to give it up on the previous turn. I have to point out, again, hasn't been able to... He didn't make use of Library of Solana on the previous turn. Won't be able to with this hand either. Just 1 yellow in that hand.
A Passing Mirage is going to get in on the defense. 6 defense left for Andrew Cook, as well as a Spectral Shield. And now it's time for Bonds of Agony.
We have
1
seen
resource floating,
which can pay for Undertow Stilettos. So the question is, did Bird Carrera find a 0-cost reaction off the random ponder on the previous turn, of which there is 1 Justinic left, and any Transcend card, because that represents Mask of Recurring Nightmares, which is an additional reaction.
Oh yeah, cheat card would be huge here, because then she could also hero power if she wants.
So Andrew Cook can do the math here. If it's a Mask of Recurring Nightmares to turn on this Bonds of Agony, this Bonds of Agony is coming in for 4.
I think you just don't play around
you'll need to banish a
Justinic.
card from
Like,
hand
if she has
for 5.
Justinic, you just
If it
shake
is a
her hand.
Justinic, then this Bonds of Agony is for 9. So unlike
I just
many
block for,
other
like,
new turns where
pretend
the
like this is
damage
only
can
going
be
to 4, I think.
extremely variable, this is either 4 or 9.
If it's 9, we lose. So, it's 4.
Andrew truly in the tank here.
Also, could just, like, not be.
Checks again.
But there's the other option, where it's just literally not a reaction in Arsenal, and it's just a Codex, and she just gives this go again and throws something else, and calls you a fool for overblocking this. Like, nope, it's just 1. Codex. Get shit on.
What am I working with? What resources are left?
It could also be a complete bluff, and it's Undertow Stilettos into a Codex. Or into a Legal. This is
Yeah,
something
there's
else.
a lot of branching paths available to Bird here.
Yeah, so I'm just going to completely ignore Justinic. There's no way we win the game if she has Justinic. So I'm going to block like it's either 4 or 1.
2 cards.
6 is fucking
2 cards
psychotic.
here.
Huh? Huh? What does this block? What does 7 do? A hiss? I guess. No, that doesn't even work, because she doesn't have the money to do that. 7 literally doesn't cover anything. This block makes no sense. Because she needs to pay $1 to activate the boots. So if it's a 1-cost reaction in Arsenal, that's she can't play it here. And she does the 1-cost reaction from an Arsenal instead of boots, well then this is still just going to 4. It could go to 5, I guess, if she has a Venomous Bite. I don't know if she plays Venomous. She should have Venomous Bite. That'd be the... If you think there's a Venomous Bite, then you just block your chest in a card. Because then you're still blocking 4, and you keep the shield around if it's only going to 4. 7, I don't think there's a single thing 7 covers.
And it is the Undertow Stilettos.
He just like
Is it
does
a
not want to block with his
reaction?
chess piece.
Or is it just an attack?
Slither. Giving go again, and Bird into the tank. Reaches for the card, and it's the Codex.
These get vanished.
Now, sidestep. No resources here, so we suspect leave no witnesses will be the play.
And I believe Andrew Cook is holding a no block.
I think it's a Figment.
It's a Figment.
I think it's a Figment.
So unless he has Soul Shield in his arsenal, no Figment on the board to speak of. Can't flip Prism to get Ward 4 out of nowhere.
Yeah, if he made the other block, then he blocks card and chest. She sidesteps. You look like an idiot. Whatever. You move on with life. She leave no witnesses. You block card and spectral shield. You live, and then you can put the Figment into your soul, make another spectral shield, and try again. Like, you're still in this game with that line.
Here is the attack for 4. Andrew Cook looks at that card, which we believe to be a Figment. Is there help in the arsenal here? And Bird Cabrera takes it down!
That was a very suspicious block.
What an incredible
I don't know if he could have won that
finish
game,
on
but that
the
was,
front foot
like,
in the middle
you
over
cannot
there.
win the game
No
by making
pressure
that block.
falling behind a little bit, as Prism can often do to their opponents, but in the end, with that amazing sidestep bonds of agony.
All right,
into
moving
products
on to
of
the
frailty,
last game
they did
of
5-6 block from Andrew Cook on a bonds of
top
agony
8,
that was
or
coming
is
in
this
for
1, 2,
You know
3? So we
what's
got one
best
more,
about
right?
The thought I
Majin?
had in that moment.
Us dive into the depths
I'm excited to watch the
beneath
Majin
high
games.
seas and return
Though this one should be pretty
to
free.
Candlehold as Verdance and Florian square off in front of the Millennium Tree for our viewing pleasure. It's the final quarterfinals from the U.S. National Championship in 2025. We've got Majin Bey versus Randy Davis. Let's get into it.
I don't think I realized this was such a, you know, we're kind of putting our psionic warriors against each other here. Sam, my teammate, and your teammate battling it out in top 8 of U.S. Nationals. Pretty exciting stuff. Let's get into the ring as our action figures swing at one another here.
So we need to watch throughout this game to see when and how quickly Majin figures out what Randy is trying to do. Here comes the first healing amulet and the pheanoblack
Oh,
amulet,
interesting.
the light
Randy,
resolve.
I mean, you say that, what is he trying to do? Jig's already, like, a little bit up with the presented equipment. The plume is pretty not standard, and then he's going AB3. So I have to imagine Randy accepts the fact that he's not winning a heads-up game into Majin, so he's trying to fatigue him. This to grab, like, some sort of card to prevent damage.
And now Randy is going to just adopt a defensive posture. We heard him say it in the interview. We know his game plan. He is going to try to fatigue this Verdance deck, run him out of threats, and make it so that when he has to go for the combo, it's like nigh impossible thanks to the static text on Reaping Blade.
I just want to point out something completely unrelated to the game state. Loving the double legendary fully non-foil equipment suite on Randy's side of the table.
First rune chant created, Grasp of the Arknight activated. And that's going to be the end of the turn for Randy. He's not even going to arsenal a card here.
I feel like that's gotta be alarm bells immediately
Huh?
on Majin's side of the table.
Surgeon Aether Tide
The fuck is his
is
hand?
going to be blocked immediately by that Condemned to Slaughter. AB3 total for Randy Davis. He's got 2 in the carapace and 1 in the boots. Majin continuing the turn here. He's going to come forward. Cadaver's tilling, no decompose, just coming in for 6.
Talk about the amount of damage his deck can do when you're not decomposing these big decomposed threats. You actually lose a fair bit of damage out of your deck. If you don't decompose all of these Cadaverous tillings, that's 6 damage straight out of the stack.
Block
I think I'm going to
4-5
bounce
postured.
once this game is
Light
over to
token
do dinner,
created with the
and I
Canopy
might come
Shelter
back to
down
finish
39
top 8, or I'll
goes
do it
Randy. We're gonna
tomorrow.
watch these light
This is
totals
over
theoretically. If
around
Randy has his druthers
42,
walk down
it's
together
52 right now, so
throughout
50
this
minutes.
game until the Reaping Blade takes over at the end, as we've seen time and time again since Florian's rise to prominence and dominance in the last ProQuest season.
Can I ask you a question?
What's up?
What does the word druthers mean? You've said it like 7 times to me this weekend, and I actually don't know the definition.
Druthers, it's just like, it's like an old-timey saying, like, if
Like
I
have your way?
Yeah, if I have my way at things.
If I had my druthers.
Yeah, 100%. If I had my druthers, then if I had my druthers, I'd be in the top 8 contention for U.S. Nationals top 8. But you know what? I ain't that good. That's why I'm in the booth, just throwing down and loving every moment of it. That's going to be the block out. Randy Davis down to 39. On his turn, he's just going to Arsenal, pass over to Majin. Let's see if there's any response. That's all good. And this is partially because, remember, we talked about the difference between Lucas's deck and Majin's deck. Randy said, not a lot of Arcane, not as much Arcane, much more in that Bullander style. Bull dance, as Randy put it. Way more attack action cards. So Randy doesn't have to worry about these Arcane spells going over the top as much. Here comes the Command and Conquer. Let's look at the hand for Randy.
No, we won't.
No, not at all. He's just going to take the 6, let that card hit the bin. On trigger, there goes the Felling of the Crown.
He's so dedicated to this plan of letting Majin chip him down that he is willing to sacrifice the most powerful card in his deck straight off the rip. I have to wonder.
I feel like if you're trying to fatigue,
defense reactions in that hand.
You do want to put the Felling back on the bottom. Though I guess you didn't really have an option there, Command and Conquer. That's tough. But because I think you want to try lining up the Felling with Majin's combo turn to like kind of fuck it up. Just mess up the math of what he's doing.
And he sure was.
Yeah, that's gonna be,
And I just don't want to redraw that hand later. I don't even know if I make a Rune Chant there. I think I need to get rid of those D-Reacts.
To go down into the bottom of the deck, and we see a little bit more about perhaps why the Felling of the Crown hit the graveyard. Two Rune Chants now created before the Florian ability is online. Just honestly pitching into that grass with those 3 D-Reacts that could do nothing else. Randy now has those 3 D-Reacts on the bottom of the deck. Majin just established that healing potion past. I think he might be already starting to worry and wonder about the game plan Randy Davis is trying to enact. We're going to be just watching these pitch stacks, folks, all game long. Fruits of the Forest, gain 2 life, up to 35 goes Florian.
Definitely a really interesting balance here of wanting his opponent to chip him down so that it's harder for him to enact his life gain combo. But
this is where I wish I was on Lucas's list.
Down a little too much, a little too quickly. He might just die.
This is like a little difficult if Randy just stays below us all game. Where if you're on Lucas's list with the Evergreens, then whatever, I'll counter fatigue you with Evergreen. I don't think Majin was on Evergreen. Let me just double check real quick. If he is on Evergreen, then whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, this strategy just doesn't work. February. Dex. Tournament. United States Nationals champion. The GOAT. Yeah, he's not on Evergreens. So, like, if he was, this strategy that Randy's implementing literally can't win.
And speaking of striking a little bit of balance, Majin,
this is one of the games of all time.
Ethertide to maybe bait some cards out of Randy's hand, and then smelling he was still.
I feel like all of Majin's games are games of all time. He has some very entertaining games.
Potion effect on the board.
All right, Randy, what's going to be the call? Pitch into the blade. Here comes 2 and 3. Has to make some offensive action.
I don't know if I even bother attacking from Randy's POV. I don't want to let Majin dip below me.
You can see the pitch stacking begin. Pulsing Aether and Felling of the Crown head to the bottom alongside that Swarming Gloom Veil. Randy's looking for action points at the end of the game, and Majin's looking for.
Can you Surgent target yourself?
Cadaver Stilling. Let's see if the Decompose is online. Yes, all 3 immediately into the Banished. 8 damage on the chain.
I believe that
you cannot Surgent yourself.
Decompose, given the Command and Conquer in his graveyard, fulfilling the action requirement for this Decompose. Let's see what Randy's working with here. Looking to block with an Autumn's Touch, has a Plow Under, a Fruits of the Forest, and a Cadaverous Tilling in hand here.
Ooh, and Ashley going to block with both of the reds. Block for a total of 5. Taking 3, down to 30 goes Randy.
I believe he should be going to 32. He gained 2 life off the Fruits of the Forest, and life totals just didn't get updated.
I didn't see the Fruits of the Forest, so yep, down to 2 after all is said and done.
Down to 2? Oh!
Holy!
And just like that, it's the biggest
my money's on Majin.
I've ever seen an attack for 35. No, it's going to be the
6
Reaping Blade.
in the pocket.
Reaping Blade plus the Rune Chant. No ability yet, so this one's just 1 and 3. D-Reacts used in 2 different ways. 1 in the pitch, 1 on the chain. There's another Earth card for the graveyard for Majin.
I don't know, if I'm Majin,
so something I
might just like not block anything this entire game so that way I can dip lower. But maybe he's able to win irregardless of the Reaping Blade, and that's just like not actually integral to this game. But I feel like I want to take damage.
Is that Majin just pitched a sink below after seeing Randy pitch a Swarming Gloomveil. He is setting himself up to have the defensive tools he needs to shut down the go again. Randy is trying to muster at the end of his deck.
Jesus, 4 pots in play.
Pitching away, red Cadaverous Tilling alongside that Swarming Gloomveil and a red Bramble Spark into the grasp of the Arknight, and then just pass it on over. Pass is fine from Majin. What's Majin going to do here? He's got the Aether Arc, got the Rampant Growth Life. We're going to send that to the bottom immediately, and you have to imagine the other two are going to be joining as soon as possible. There goes the Arcane Seeds Life for Randy. 2 different meld cards in the pitch as the Aether Arc is going to power up something. Also, yeah, I mean, as Randy points out, immediately it's turn 5, and all of the Healing Potion and Amulet effects are available. Here comes the
I think Majin also has an E-Pot, right?
Bit of an awkward situation for Majin here because he hasn't been being attacked. It's a little tough for him to get all the Earth cards into the graveyard that he would like to. Being forced to send across this pulsing...
Yeah, Majin also has 1 more potion in the deck.
Felling of the Crown in his hand because he just didn't have the fuel in the yard for it yet. There's now 3 cards in the graveyard at all.
Randy's just passing the turn back.
Speaking of Felling of the Crown, both players are holding one right now.
And you can see there's the second copy of Rampant Growth Life and as many turns, which means they're going to be back-to-back at the bottom of the pitch stack. Once we get there, Majin will be able to...
I mean, before you put that in Levia, you should put Sea Legs in the deck, right? That seems pretty good.
The question is, what will life totals be once we get back to pitch stack? What will Randy have been able to do, taking damage and dealing damage, to turn off the Verdance's ability to even gain the life and get the effect from her devastating combo? It's so cool to see players enact completely different strategies in a top 8 scenario when it's untimed, the deck lists are opened, and you take a matchup like this one for Florian that is pretty cursed, as we've heard some of our players say throughout the weekend, and even Randy say, it's not the matchup I'm excited to see, and he's thinking, and as you said, the only way to get through this one is to block, is to preserve life. Rootbound Carapace.
You also have the out of Majin makes a mistake.
To block for 3, it looks like. There's the Earth.
Hope opponent is more mentally fatigued than you are.
Sometimes the only way to win is not to play. Plow under, I believe, for no value outside of just decomposing. I don't think Randy had an arsenal on that turn.
Let's see the turn here from Randy. Reaping Blade.
Pitching a red.
Yeah, E-Strike to the bottom.
Another Rampant Growth next to the other 2.
Look at that, all the way to the bottom. They go 1, 2, 3, and subsequent turns. Majin Bey is perfectly set up for that turn when he gets there. And maybe we don't know what the card he put to the bottom with the E-Strike is, but it might very nicely go alongside all 3 Rampant Growths.
Yeah, there's a Felling of the Crown and a Plow under next to those 2 Rampant Growths at the bottom of his deck. I believe the order of the bottom 5 or 6 cards of his deck right now is Rampant Growth, Felling, Plow, and then the 3rd Rampant Growth.
CNC comes in now for Sig.
Yeah, sure. It's just one of these is free.
As you heard Majin say.
And also fulfills your other deck building conditions of being a 6.
But because of open deck list, doesn't have to worry about the pummel. You heard him the turn just like a moment ago say that was unexpected. I'm not going to lie to you, unexpected. I'm not sure if he was talking about the E-Strike hitting or the way that this game is going.
It's also just a little bit of a mixed signal situation. If what you can't, it's
the
difficult
hell?
to sniff out that you're.
There's like a shitload of edge damage on this card.
As possible, and then just tank up and make it hard for you to get anything through. And I think if you haven't caught on to exactly that, I think it's easy to tell when your opponent wants to fatigue you, right? That's obvious off the rip. When they're blocking as much as possible, pitching into grasp, passing through, sure, they want to fatigue me. What's harder to catch on to is the Reaping Blade component of this strategy, Sam. So him just snapping off no blocks, I'll take 7 down to 21 is like the first turn of the game, but in a different way, setting off alarm bells for Majin.
Arsenal end pass for Randy. Florian continuing to put down roots and try to outlast The Verdants on the other side of the
I want to know
table.
how much time Sam puts into
Ube,
thinking of
master
different
this class and of this
things
deck,
to
battle
say,
hardened
like put
champion
down
with the Verdants
routes
deck. There
for
goes
all the
Heartbeat
different
Candlehold to
heroes.
the bottom.
Does he have a
The
notebook where he
Cadaver's
writes all
turn
this
is going
stuff
to decompose
down?
again.
Heartbeat of Candlehold, pretty much the ideal possible card for when you want to Rampant Growth combo off. With one other blue, it curves out perfectly with your Surgent Ethertide activation, as well as being 3 more life gain. And once you're online, 3 Verdant's pings, a veritable 1 for 6 go again at blue.
Randy passes the turn back. Down to 21. Needs to try to get some damage across on Majin. Surgeon Aethertide now once again just comes in. There goes the blue to the pitch. Energy potion now. We've talked about Kano being the merchant hero, but Verdance has clearly gone to the bazaar as they traveled throughout the lands of Arya, picking up some potions of her own.
Perhaps an unknown part of the wizard design identity.
Last
is
stack
just
of commons to
carrying
go
around a
through to
whole
yoink
bunch
all
of
the
potions,
allies.
which is pretty fitting to me. Grass reaping, good old greeping play here.
Greeping.
Down to 34 goes
Lol.
Majin. Deep in the 5 cards.
Seems like he's starting to suspect that he is going to need to take some damage to close this game.
I'll always stop you if I have something. Okay, that's fair. 5 go.
I believe he just tucked a second E-strike to this E-strike.
5 go again. Randy's got to think about it. But this physical damage, remember, much easier to block than tall arcane spells. And this is why Randy considered the plan that he was making. Because of the propensity for this Verdance deck that Majin Bey is playing to throw physical attacks in lieu of arcane effects that can get over the arcane barrier that Randy has presented. And that's the thing. Randy has a weapon, and Majin does not. The end of this game comes down to no true
Oh,
threats
I
left in the
remember.
deck.
I remember talking to Majin about this game. They hit a state at the near the end of the game where they're stalemated and they both just keep passing, and they ask the rules as far as that goes. And I guess Randy had asked yesterday, or yeah, I say yesterday, but to past Randy's yesterday, what the rule with that was, and the rule was that the game was supposed to restart. And then when they asked during top 8, they got a different answer, and it was if the game stalemates, then the player with the higher life just wins. So Randy's entire game plan was predicated on that was the ruling for what happens if the game stalemates and neither player will advance the game. Just to be like, yeah, no, never mind, that's not the rule. Just gets absolutely shit on by the ruling. I would be so mad.
And for either players, the Reaping Blade will be the difference maker in more ways than one. Root to the forest.
Bit of that Pankaj tech on display here. He talked about working on this deck with Majin, and they said that their favorite part of this deck was the red fruits. Just really, really sweet and flexible.
I talked to Majin right after the game, and I walk up to Majin, and I'm like, oh man, are you nice? Like, nice as in, did you win the game? And he's like, I'm nice, but I didn't win it in a nice way. And I'm like, oh no, what happened? And then he explains the story. He's like, oh, that's not how I wanted to win, but personally, I don't see any problem with that. Your opponent chose to play the game that way, and this is a product of both how the policy and rules are written and card design within the game, forcing players into making that kind of strategic decision. If Verdance doesn't have enough tools to beat someone that is just going to ignorantly block and do nothing all game, but the policy says that the game stalemates, you win, then I see no reason to not do that, because both policy and card design are telling you that is what you should do. So I think I don't like that. I don't think policy should be written that way. Or rather, I agree. I think policy should be written that way. I think if you're just going to do nothing all game, you shouldn't be rewarded for that. I don't think that's like I don't think that's good for coverage, and I don't think that's good for the game. So I think you shouldn't be rewarded for just, I'm going to sit here and do nothing for 50 minutes.
Another 7 power popper, but is also such an incredibly powerful modal card.
Yeah, it was like him trying to, oh, I couldn't do the thing that I was trying to do, then I'm just going to stall out the game, and then try game 2, do the thing like, can I open a nutty channel mount heroic turn or something like that? That's what I heard. I don't know how true that is.
For 3 by discarding it, gaining 1 life, and pinging your opponent for 1 while functionally having go again by being an instant, or just be a 2-card attack for 7. Pretty solid rate.
Is there like a long-ass judge call because of that at some point?
Randy to 18.
On the topic of this red Fruits of the Forest, this card replaces something in particular. Randy is taking this strategy because this red Fruits of the Forest replaces red Evergreen, a very real cost in your deck. It makes you more fatigable. Evergreen will infinitely loop itself as long as it's played from the arsenal, which has kind of given rise to Randy sniffing out this strategy to begin with.
Very true. That is the way to break through fatigue. You just continuously play the Evergreen from Arsenal. But again, these open deck lists in top 8, Randy looked through it. He calculated the damage. He said, I think I can outlive and outlast you. And then my Reaping Blade will be what carries me forward. Once again, it's just an Arsenal pass for Randy.
Another heartbeat to the bottom of the deck.
How is Majin going to be able to string together the combo?
That's fair. That seems like a dubious strategy.
Here. Calling out the potential trickery as finally we have some tall arcane in the form of this pulsing Aether Life. Not even worth resolving the life, it can't trigger. Randy can AB3.
Taken 2, I believe.
I did. So that comes in for 5?
So he takes 1 from Surgeon.
I think if you're playing Millennium Tree, then maybe that's more reasonable. So that way you can just go really tall with Arcane and Majin literally can't AB it.
By the amount of damage it deals, which is
Just like make one rune chant and push your weapon for Arcane.
Rampant growth amp combo. But here, it's just adding 1 extra damage to this pulsing ether. Just a nice, clean 2-card 6, 7 if you can gain the life.
Grasp of the Arcanite. Activated. Everbloom life on both sides of the table in the pitch zone on both of these turns. And he does need to decompose a little more to start making this grasp infinitely more impressive. Here comes the Reaping Blade.
Down 20 life is maybe where I would start to get a little bit concerned about one player's chances of viably winning this game, but what we
Randy's strat, I'm just going to go to 1. You can never turn off Reaping Blade. Oh, I guess Majin could also go to 1. I get to gain life once.
A little bit behind. Emeritus Scolding, blue to the bottom of the deck, one of the most ideal.
I feel like his win percentage going for first blood after going for a tie, assuming that the tie rule works the way he thought it did, is probably lower than just winning a normal game, because you could just high roll, turn on your decompose really fast, draw all the go again cards, and just punch Majin in the mouth. Assuming his list is anywhere close to like how as aggressive as Noah's is. Like, you could win the game doing that. I think you're probably like 30% to win that game.
4 Verdants.
There goes the CNC to the bottom in the pitch zone. Here comes the CNC on the combat chain. Are there defense reactions for Randy in the hand? Is he going to be able to block this out? It's a Seeds of Tomorrow, a Canopy Shelter, and the Warmonger's Diplomacy.
Getting the seeds into the
Seeds of Tomorrow, another really
grave is probably good
in this matchup, because if you can Plume for it, once that card's already in your graveyard, you can activate Plume to pick it up and prevent 5 points of arcane damage, giving you a little bit more insulation from large arcane combos. There is as well 1 copy of arcane.
But like, assuming you think you can tie 100% of the time, I still think it's probably like you're 5% to win in sudden death, where I think you're like 30% to win just a normal heads-up game. I think your win rate is just higher doing the normal thing if you assume you could tie 100% of the time.
Davis's deck, but we have seen Majin
Assuming the deck is aggressive. Like, this is... I don't actually know his deck list offhand. Let's take a look.
Just put all the amp on a Verdant's ping trigger, making it impossible for Arcane Compliance to target it, as it's not an action card source of Arcane. So might be a
Randy
little
Davis,
bit
right?
less
Yeah.
relevant of a win condition than Mr. Davis thinks it is.
And Randy Davis once again.
Let's see, he's
passes
got
the
Bramble
turn
Sparks.
over.
He
Surgeon
does
Ether
have
Tide
the
comes
Millennium
through for one,
Trees.
AB with the
Okay,
chance
so
of
his win
Millennium Tree.
percentage going into sudden death is much higher than
How is
5%.
Majin going to find the damage?
His win
the
percentage
question
is
on everybody's
the
mind.
chance for him to
Into the
draw a
forest.
Millennium
It's a
Tree
nice 7-power attack.
compared to the
Blocked
chance of
out
his
by
opponent
nice
drawing
7 points of
anything
defense.
off of
We found Carapace and the
Storm
Auto
Striders
Step.
that
All 3
deals
Earth Guards to
4 or
the
more.
Banish Zone.
Another solid
Which would
set of
be,
4 cards
what,
at the bottom
Burn
of his deck.
Bear-
He has blue
Majin has
fruits,
9
ether
cards that
arc,
go over
red
AB3.
fruits, and an Emeritus Scolding. This might not just go to second cycle, but maybe third, Sam.
Almost for sure.
And in exactly that vein, 2 cards intentionally overpitching to the Surgeon Ether Tide, red Rootbound Carapace, and a blue Autumn's Touch. Not only is he sculpting...
Wait, he's on
a
0 Channel Mount
powerful arcane
Heroics?
finisher at the bottom of his deck, he is also sculpting some...
Okay, I guess it's pretty
tools
reasonable
to
that he
deal
thinks he
with
can't
what
win a
Randy is
heads-up
trying
game.
to set up.
He doesn't have it.
Speaking of
All he has
setting
is
up,
Swarming Gloomveil for a
Majin
go
has
again
established
attack, and
Ring
he's got
of
no
Roses, incredibly
um,
powerful verdant
Channel Mount
specialization
Heroics.
from the Hunted.
Sink Below going to go ahead, carry over the Reaping Blade. Block out that attack. Majin happy to get the D-React out of the hand, as it's not going to be doing much in this game. Surgeon Aether Tide once again comes through for 1.
This ring's pretty textless. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I mean, I know the matchup,
Ring
like,
of Roses here.
to the
one
level
game
of I
is
can
going
understand
to be possible thanks
just
to
the macro of
Reaping
what
Blade.
players are trying to do. Just like
Haunting
I can
Rendition
read
is gonna
cards
go
and
make
try
the
to
Rune Chant
figure
being
out what
discarded to
they're
prevent the
trying to do.
1 arcane
I've
damage.
never played this matchup.
Make the 2 Rune Chants, as it looks as though Florian is online.
What's sick art on Haunting Rendition?
Oh yeah,
Come on. Iswardi Therianto killing it yet again.
my goat. Blue Fruits of the Forest now on the combat chain. 5 more damage and 1 floating prevention from the Haunting Rendition. And 1 more on the chain just as a blocking card. So those 2 effects are going to work nicely in tandem to block out that Blue Fruits.
Reaping Blade swung, pitching a red. More gas at the bottom of both players' decks here. There might be too many reds at the bottom of Randy's deck.
Oh yeah, Randy's pitched red after red after red. He is going to draw some hands that even if Majin isn't able to amp, he's still going to be able to present some arcane, and we'll have to see if Randy is able to prevent it when those turns come around. Majin probably watching those reds carefully to try to figure out if...
You know what's funny? Majin could have just gone Waning Moon instead. If you know, it's the other tie rule, and just, okay, we get to the state where you're at like 14 or whatever, I'm just gonna start Waning Mooning myself and get myself low enough that I can gain life again, and then I'll kill you. I don't know how good that is, because like once you get low enough that you can actually gain all this life, Randy could just kill you instead. But that's an interesting thought, because you don't need the Surgeon when Randy's this low. Like a gentle breeze will kill him.
Determine when Randy would draw a hand of 3 to 4 reds and perhaps have counterpitched an arcane spell to get through.
Another red Autumn's Touch next to the first. Let's see what Majin's follow-up is to the Surgeon Ether Tide. Is he just going to pitch into it and pass? Let's take a look at Majin's graveyard with Mr. Davis here.
Shelter from the Storm just utilized on that last Reaping Blade. Majin still at 31. Majin's going to pass as well. Randy Davis down to 14 to Majin's 31.
I feel like we're about to hit the pass.
Far from the story here. And here's a truce. Once again, continuing the defensive game plan and posturing from Randy.
Truce is perhaps the funniest possible card you could resolve in this matchup, given that its symmetrical life gain is actually shut down by Reaping Blade, and it is just a blue that's going to gain Randy 3 life.
I think Truce is one of my favorite cards
Unless,
that they've
of course,
printed.
Majin can suddenly deal himself.
I think it's a really
15 points of
interesting
damage
card.
on this turn.
Let's see what Majin wants to follow up with another blue just into the Command and Conquer, just to break the truce.
Would rather give his opponent a card to block with than 3 life.
Probably
That's
wants
fair.
to just start cycling through, setting up for whatever combo he's working towards. As we look at all those potions stoppered up, filled with their healing elixirs, but nowhere to go with the power. As the Reaping Blade pulled from the spine from, I believe it was one of the members of the Monastery with Viscerai, someone along those lines, Arc Knight. That lore story was crazy. Became the Reaping Blade, and it is because of that horrible essence that in which it was created that it stops all life gain.
I learned something.
Thanks, MTG Ryan.
Yeah, it's a sick story.
Good old Reaping Plague, Grasp Reaping, 1 card 5. 2 rune chance and 3 damage on offer. Majin seems pretty happy to get to block, honestly.
Yeah, he's now he's continuing to get these D-reacts out of his hand on the Reaping Blade. He needs to get them out of the deck to set up whatever stack he wants.
1.
1 from the Surging Aether Tide once again.
1.
And now 4 more from the Pulsing Aether, just trying to get a little bit of damage over. Randy here, likely going down to 13.
No.
Oh, has to ABP a
Sheesh.
bunch of reds,
Oh,
so taking
sure.
2.
Down to 12. Just moving to end card in arsenal and card in hand. What is he cooking here?
Defense, he's cooking defense.
He's holding on to his Seeds of Tomorrow, waiting for Majin to try and combo off.
There's a Rampant Growth Life. Does that mean we are nearly back or fully? Yeah, we are in
Yep.
the second cycle.
This is the stack. I believe the next card on top of his deck right here is going to be another Rampant Growth, followed by Heartbeat of Candlehold, I believe an Enlightened Strike, an unknown card, a Heartbeat of Candlehold, and then a hand containing blue Meritus Scolding, red Fruits of the Forest, Ether Arc, and a blue Fruits of the Forest. But before any of that, we're going to rattle off the first felling of the crown. If you'd believe it, turn 16, the very first time a tree has been chopped down in this Earth Mirror.
I think perhaps it was the Seeds of the Tomorrow going to the bottom of the deck here, in which case Randy has the seeds ready for both of those Rampant Growths that he can see on the bottom of Majin Bay's deck as soon as the pitch heads to that zone. Both players here pitched stacking, counter pitch stacking. Randy Davis taking a little bit of damage.
Let's see Majin's next hand of the stack as he draws it up. There's a Plow Under tucked by the E-Strike, not another Enlightened Strike.
So yeah, we talked about third cycle. I mean, we may talk about the fourth as we continue in this game. Majin Bay continuing to try to set up those 3 Rampants all together. Will he be able to gain the life necessary to make the effects even count? He's got so much more life on Randy. He has to get down below Randy, and with Randy down to 12, as Randy's taken enough damage, actually looks like down to 10, correctly resolving here. Randy Davis is only, giving him a total of potentially like 9 life to gain with where Randy is at the moment.
9 is plenty, more or less. It depends how low he ends up going.
How low can you go?
Majin giving him the opportunity to take a little bit more damage here as well with this Plow Under.
There's also a world where Randy just dips too low and just dies to the 3 Burn Bears. Like, he could just get burnt out.
If those Rampant Growths at the bottom of the deck.
We're 1 point away from that happening.
Home through these 2 kind of insane turns that we've had back-to-back here, turns 16 and 17. Majin has set up at the bottom of his deck a devastating combo hand of Rampant Growth ×3 and Heartbeat of Candlehold.
Those cards all work really nicely together when
I'm really surprised that on the last BNR, when they got rid of Germinate and the other stick, that they didn't get rid of Reaping Blade. I really think Reaping Blade should be banned. I think it's kind of a limiting card on design. Like, you basically can't print another Runeblade weapon that's better than it.
He could not arsenal that card. It was
unless it's
tomorrow.
Yeah, you don't want to put that one in there.
You don't want to put
like
that
really
one in
niche,
it costs your arsenal to
like the
play.
Aurora
So
one,
you're
where it's like
stuck until
just
you
does
get
something completely
another
different.
Way to get your arsenal out.
And if it's worse than that, you're just not going to play it. I guess there's a chance that you make gloves that work better for the hero than grasp, and then Reaping Blade isn't as good.
Majin has to start to take some of this damage to be able to do any arcane effect.
Yeah, tough thing about that though is that.
Oh, here, I assume this is the judge question of what happens if I just keep passing.
At this stage of the game.
You can get back to me. We have time.
Looks like, yeah, Majin beginning to ask exactly how these type of procedures go down. If we reach a point of maybe like a stalemate, or when game actions are not, you know, preferable by either side. And there are
I guess he can't do the burn. Is there a seeds in the graveyard?
Actually differ between Swiss and top 8.
If there is, then I guess the burn bear plan can't work.
Majin here, though, just going to continue. Here comes the Surge and Aether Tide. AB1, Autumn's Touch, just getting more threats out of the deck. Trying to set up what will work. Five damage on the combat chain. We know what Randy is trying to do. We know what Majin wants to do. So what, I mean, you know this deck, you've tested with Majin. Are there any keys to success? Does he have a reprieve from this lock? Or is this just something that might be a foregone conclusion depending on how the game goes?
So, the reprieve from this lock is a little silly. The way Majin needs to win this game, if he has sniffed out the way that Randy wants to win this game, is he also needs to stop playing the game. He needs to just start passing and letting Randy hit him and deal him damage, because otherwise we're going to reach just a full stalemate.
Yeah, when neither player is able to take a game action that they believe advances their game plan, that is when that state could be reached. But here comes 5-Go again. Randy doesn't want to take too much damage. Doesn't want to fall to a point where an arcane damage bell could get over the top, as we see the Arcane Seed's life hit the pitch stack for Randy. Way to get some instant speed life gain to potentially utilize with the Reaping Blade.
There's also a chance he could just go for the burn bear thing when he knows that Randy hits one of those all red hands.
The ability for Majin Bay to gain.
Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. He's just going to pitch 3 reds to it, and it just is the same thing as pitching a blue. It doesn't matter if it's inefficient.
See how many earth cards we've got. There's the action. There's the Carapace in the graveyard.
Efficiency is not what this game is about.
Cast the expected card here, says Majin Bay, following up this E-Strike with a Felling of the Crown. Both players are already online, so taking the most efficient decomposes that they possibly can, choosing to remove minimum only 2.
Did we see any burn bears, though? I don't think I've seen one all game.
Extra fuel for the fires of the Felling.
Felling of the Crown here crashes in for 8. Before the draw, with at 5 life, let's see what's drawn up. Nothing for Majin to do. He had a little bit of a window there with the Metacarpus nodes, but it wasn't enough. Didn't find the Arcane spell, and this is what Randy was talking about. He said, I don't think he has enough Arcane. Even
yeah, now Randy's too low, where it's like, I don't know if I can really punch him anymore.
Close the game out.
Sending across just Surge and Aether Tide into Autumn's Touch for 5. Those physical threats are getting incredibly thin in Majin's deck here.
And now Randy Davis is at 5. The right combination of cards drawn up for Majin could potentially be a Storm Striders plus Metacarpus nodes angle.
Oh, sorry.
Let's see this hand.
Yeah, I'll walk away.
Alrighty, so it looks like Majin is going to go ahead and check in. We're hearing from production, it is a little bit about exactly what happens in these kind of end-of-game procedures. And, you know, Ellie, we were talking about it after I was able to interview Randy. I was like, oh, we should check in a little bit about these procedures. Walk the people at home through just precisely what happens in these type of scenarios.
Deep breath before starting on this one. All right. Let's break this down top to bottom. What do you do when you reach a game state in which neither player wishes to progress the game state by virtue of attacking the other? So, it is not profitable for either player in this scenario to attack the other. And there's been a bit of a policy change on this. Actually, fun fact for everybody at home, the reason policy changed on full stalemate situations was because of the Living Legend format. These Count Your Blessings Olden Mirrors in LL were capable of not only gaining a whole crap ton of life and going to time over and over and over, but they were capable of infinitely blocking out each other's hammers. So a change to procedure was needed, because what used to happen is that if you reached a true stalemate where neither player could profitably take any game actions, you would start the game over. But in that scenario, you would just sit there and play Flesh and Blood forever and ever and ever until one of you eventually keeled over.
And it start the game over, and from what I understand, it's then on actually just first life loss.
No.
Oh, really?
That's what it is now.
Yeah, that's what it... Okay, but that's what it used to be, right?
No, that's what it is now.
Ignore me. Continue
That's
on.
what it is now. It used to be you would just start over, play another game of Flesh and Blood.
Yes,
You would just play a fresh game of Flesh and Blood, both Swiss and top 8. Now, in untimed rounds, what you do when a stalemate is reached is the first procedure that happens is you check both players' life totals, and the player with higher life totals win.
I actually would be down for highest life
because if we reach a stalemate,
being
essentially conceded
the
this
determining
game
factor
for
when going to
square
time
one
as well.
by reaping blade,
Like,
forcing
I
it
think
to a lower life total to
drawing
create the stalemate.
And
If both players
it
have
is
the
just
same
fucking stupid.
life
I
total, what you do is you
I'd be
start
down
the
for just
game
highest life
first
wins.
blood drawn wins the game, but the problem with that is that yet again, Randy Davis would have functionally conceded this game from square one, as he would just die immediately to Storm Striders.
Yeah, as we head back down to the feature match table, we're actually hearing that it does, the players are discussing, they're talking with the judges, it seems as though that was somewhat unclear to Randy, and he was expecting the old way of going about things, where you would be able to go to that new game and its first life total. And so Randy here all of a sudden is having to change his game plan after conferring with the judges.
Now that I'm at
understanding precisely
5,
what the
I need to
newer
change my game
procedures
plan.
are.
Ah,
Randy
shit.
is figuring out a new path to
Ah,
victory,
shit.
because what he thought was possible, where he just goes ahead and forces the stalemate, forces it to be where that first blood is drawn, and he feels really confident about getting that first bit of damage through. That is not going to be prevalent nor possible anymore. Randy needs to make it into a place where he actually runs Majin just fully out of the threats. He cannot use the old stalemate rules. He's got to find a new way to win.
Can you believe? Let's talk about this, right? Let's put some respect on Randy Davis's name here. He is new to Flesh and Blood. He has been playing this game for about a year, and he had the ingenuity to sit down and say, in this best of one game, my out to win this bad matchup is to freaking take him to game 2. Are you kidding? Are you joking?
Look here, AB3 on the rune chance. And then I think maybe the no blocks on the Reaping Blade, as both players now fully aware of the procedures. And now we get to see Randy Davis in real time figure it out on the fly, identify a new game plan, a new strategy, as Majin Bey is going to try to continue to push the life totals in a place where he can actually do something alongside this Reaping Blade and all those healing effects on the board.
I believe what Majin is going to want to do in this scenario is just take a bunch of damage, and I think he is on his third, maybe 3.5 cycle of his deck. That is a Blue Emeritus Scolding we saw him pitch a while back, along with the Scour and those Warmonger's Diplomacies that are actually proving to be a little bit uncomfortable in his deck and hand right now. We actually saw him pass through and not Arsenal because one was stuck in his hand.
Reaping Blade here just coming in for 3. Majin taking this one too. He's going down to 16. He needs to get lower than Randy before the Reaping Blade is turned off. And the Surging Aether Tide comes forward again, and if Randy gets too low, that's when the Storm Striders can just kill him on his own turn. So that's the problem. Randy is trying to block what he can, but keep himself at a low enough life total for the Reaping Blade to be the thing that wins this game. I'm not sure if it's going to work out for him, but he's identified it as his only real option.
Not quite back to the rampant growths. We're going to keep checking in with Majin's hands as he draws them back up to see when that combo comes up. Another salvo of 5 damage. Majin, interestingly enough, Arcane Barriering the Rune Chance to get some cards out of his hand, but he does have to take damage to reach a game state where he can actually win. And the awkward cards in the deck are starting to pile up. It's getting harder and harder for him to send damage Randy's way while filtering through his deck. If he activates Surging Aether Tide, that's only 1 card out of hand, and when he's stuck with cards like Warmonger's Diplomacy and Aether Arc, they're just bricks. He can't do anything with them, really.
Randy back up to 10, facing down the Surgeon Aether Tide. Here comes the Plow Under to pitch into it. You have to wonder if all of the red attacks that Randy put together, if he's able to counter pitch the rampant growths, catch Majin on a turn when he has too many of them in his hand, and then try to come in with enough go again to put Majin in an awkward position.
I believe he has just drawn 2 of the rampant growths, meaning the top 2 cards of his deck right now are.
I feel like we're
Rampant
probably
Growth
not
Life
going
and the
anywhere
Heartbeat
new
of
for a
Candlehold.
little
We
bit.
are there. This is the moment.
I think the
He
next
has
time we go
gotten
somewhere
to
new is going to be
the
Savage
combo
Lands.
in his deck a third time in a row here.
I feel like with the amount of heroes we're going to have
Under
living
pitches to the
legend,
2 rune chance. Reaping Blade comes
and
in,
that are
takes
already
Majin to
living
13.
legended,
All of a sudden,
we
now
kind of
that
need to
you're
take a
aware
lap back
precisely
around
how
to
the
places
end of
we've
game
already
procedures
visited
work.
to
We're seeing a
get
little more
heroes back
damage taken by
into
both of our
legality.
players. Majin Bay just once again filtering through. Surgeon Aether Tide comes forward for 1.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't really know
Can
the
Randy
lore
Davis
super well
identify
of the
a
game
new
of places that
strategy?
we haven't been yet.
See this card off the top? I believe it is. Oh. Oh.
Well, that's pretty good.
Heartbeat. Is the 3rd rampant in Arsenal right now?
It might be, not sure. 2 cards that block, 2 cards that don't, and a Reaping Blade making everything more complicated for our Wizard Master on the left side of your screen. All the way down to 13, 34 minutes and 55 seconds, basically 35 minutes elapsed so far in our 4th and final quarterfinal match here from the U.S. National Championship, live from Las Vegas. Going to be the Reaping Blade and the Grasp of the Arc.
As far as classes go, we're probably going to get an Illusionist again soon.
Flip that card back.
Like, surely we get
Carefully
new
pull this
Dromai
one
soon.
through.
Good old Greeping. Condemned to slaughter.
We'll probably do Return to Tails at some point soon, because we still don't have a replacement for Lexi, and now we need a replacement for Aurora as well.
Just playing the card out to get it out of the arsenal and filter away the CNC and pass away the turn. Majin, you can see him really give this a think as he assesses the game state and assesses the board. Heartbeat of Candlehold and Felling of the Crown. Does he want to tuck away?
That is an Emeritus Scolding in his arsenal. That is likely his Storm Strider's target. Judge informing them of the way stalemates are resolved right now. Saying that players do have to play the game and progress the game state.
Going to be an overpitch into the Surgeon Aether Tide. Get those 2
I'm a
cards
fan
out
of
hand.
policy that makes players play the game, personally.
And Randy here going to go ahead and AB with the erase face.
Let's see the next 2 cards in the deck.
And there it is.
And an Everbloom Life. Not only another source
I
of
think
life
they
gain,
gave
but
us like a
blue to
loose
power
date,
the
like
turn.
a certain
Randy
quarter
wants to
or
find a
month
way to
that we were getting
disrupt
Aurora
his
back.
hand
Like,
while,
it's coming back
if he's
soon.
going to send damage Majin's way, he needs to try to kill him, but he also needs to disrupt him. Otherwise,
I don't remember exactly when.
And Randy enacted
I'm pretty
his
sure
first
it was like
game
next
plan
summer or
perfectly.
fall.
He's got the reds in his hand this turn.
Don't
He's gonna
quote
go
me.
ahead and make the 2 rune chance and pass.
I think when they
game plan
announced
had
it, it was supposed to be like
He was
8
ready to
months
force
from
the
then or
stalemate, but
something.
then the life total differences would have
I just
not
don't-
worked
I don't
out in his
remember, man.
favor after the policy change.
whole bunch of reds in this cycle.
A number of blues here. Surgeon Aether Tide coming forth, getting rid of the Everbloom Life, pitching into the Autumn's Touch.
Another red back into the back into the deck.
And Randy, this is so tricky. If he puts Majin too low, then he gives Majin the opportunity on his own turn to utilize all those rampant growths. 3 rampant
There's
growth.
the heartbeat.
There's the heartbeat, the perfect hand alongside the energy potion. But let's see now, Randy has to take a game action. He has to progress the game. Stalemate in this situation would give the game to Majin Bay with him at the higher life total.
Trying to set himself up to deal enough damage to force.
I wonder if
cards
policy
out
is written in
Majin's
such a
hand,
way where
like
you,
Everbloom Life,
if it's a
to
certain
get
number of
card
turns in a row
back,
where you don't take a game
gaining one,
action.
Giving Majin a little bit more breathing room and life to
Like,
gain,
can I still pass
because
sometimes and do
otherwise
nothing?
Everbloom can't target anything.
Grabbing the arcane seeds, a lot of
Is it like
damage,
after my
just
3rd time
arsenal that
passing?
Final card. Take the game action, pitch away the rampant growth. Now I wonder if Randy Davis is really going to start thinking about that rampant growth, about where it is in the deck, start looking at Majin's stack.
I was fully under the impression that Majin was just going to hold the cards in his hand here and just hold them and
What
take
the
as much
heck?
damage as he could.
That's so many
until
more
he could
cutties.
go off. What is he thinking? Putting that on the bottom of his deck? What is his plan?
He has certainly got one. He is working through all the different combinations. The master of the wizard class, a battle-hardened champion with this deck. How can he find
I feel
a way
like
to victory?
Sam
This is
and
such
Ellie both
an
have the same
exciting match.
casting
Thank you to
style where I
all
don't
of you
necessarily
watching
like them
and joining
casting
us
together.
from home.
We're just like
Remember, we're on to the
two of the
semifinals
same
after
style.
this.
Like
we're giving away a couple of boxes of high seas.
I don't like
You're not gonna wanna miss
the
it.
energy that they have
Let's
together.
first determine who is going to be our final semi-finalist.
Not saying I
Yeah,
dislike them
Sam,
as casting. Like I dislike them together
4,200
casting.
People watching at home, one of the most watched Fab
I still
streams
prefer
ever
Sam
here at
and
the 2025
Punkage. That's my
US National
favorite.
Championships at World Tour Las Vegas. Thank you so much to everyone supporting these great games played by great players in.
It's just like both of them do the same thing of like
Everbloom Life
saying a
over
lot of
the other
filler stuff.
Everbloom Life, and there's a little bit of a
the
recursive
loop.
loop that
Yeah.
Randy is able to put together. Randy should now be up to 12, right? Yeah, should have had to gain a lot for that to happen.
Majin's like,
This is
oh, I don't have to do
infinite
shit.
life gain loop. It's
I'm
just
higher.
Very, very slow.
But also Reaping Play changes that math too.
Majin holding on to 2 rampant growths now, a Scour, and a Heartbeat of Candlehold. That Scour can be devastating.
Yeah, this game is just fascinating. What a beautiful example of when Flesh and Blood is have to play on a completely unique axis. We play in timed rounds in Swiss. 90-95% of the games we get to cover, but then once you get to top 8, you get to see true masters and true players work through something new. We get to open deck lists, we get to untime rounds, and we get to 4 rune chants created from an arcane seeds, up to 6 rune chants.
This may be the turn Randy was setting up for. He's recognized that his out is to
Majin,
deal
I'm
as
still higher,
much
I'll
damage as
pass.
possible. Oh no! He has the Swarming Gloomveil in hand. I thought for sure he was going to try and push, but I think he's just opened himself up to a massive Scour blowout.
Scour would be huge.
I mean,
here.
Majin would have
Does
scoured last round
Majin
if he
have
gave a
it in
shit.
the hand? Yes, he does. Does he want to pitch into it and deal with all of those rune chants? This could be
No,
a
Majin wants the rune chants to hit him.
huge turning point in this game. What did Majin do? Did Majin just pass the turn? Can't tell if we're on Randy's turn or not. Plume of Evergrowth has to be looked at on both sides of the board here. Can just grab any card from the graveyard as long as it meets the criteria. And both of these Earth heroes have access to it.
Yeah, it lets you turn a blue in your hand into an instant, an Earth instant or action card from your graveyard. A little bit of a Tales of Aria deep cut. This was mostly only ever played in Limited until the second wave of Earth Heroes was printed.
And immediately, Plume of Evergrowth going to be activated here.
What
A
is he
red
grabbing?
and a yellow.
Is he grabbing back arcane seeds?
He's getting the felling. He's got to disrupt the combo if he wants to win this game, and he's setting himself up to send lethal damage through while doing so.
And then try to put Majin on a position where the damage that Randy puts forward is enough to stop the Stormstriders.
This is 14 damage.
But now that Randy has grabbed the felling and passed, setting himself up, now does Majin go for the Scour and blow out those rune chants?
He also has a Bramble Spark in hand to make this turn even more massive, along with a Swarming Gloomveil.
Wow, this would be massive, but Majin can turn it into so much less of an effective and powerful turn with the Scour that he has in his hand.
I think if he Scours here, it's just so backbreaking.
Randy has just been taking enough game action saying, listen, I know you don't want to do anything either. I'll take the game actions, but I'll sculpt up my perfect turn. With the Bramble Spark, with these rune chants, he's done it. You can see Randy give a little glance to the camera. I don't think he knows how this game is going to end either.
An Emeritus scolding for 2 on Majin's
Two.
turn.
Fascinating, and Randy's going to take it down to 10. He goes.
I believe Majin is clearing out his arsenal to insulate one of those rampant growths from a felling of the crown.
Here we go. Randy Davis, he's put the hand together. He's got the cards. He's got the buffer. He's got the rune chants. Will it be enough to give him the win?
What is his arsenal? I believe it's a trot along?
One of those games where your heart just starts to pound as you get to the end of this
I
thing.
can't believe this.
One of the more fascinating games of Flesh and Blood I've ever had the pleasure of watching as both players try to enact completely unique game plans and play styles.
This may be one of the first times I have ever seen Majin Bey, the master of the wizard class, stumped by a Florian opponent. He doesn't look like he knows how to beat this.
He's
Yeah,
trying
he's
to
just
figure it
waiting.
out just like we are, just
He's
like
chilling.
Randy is.
He's like, I just need my opponent to
Bonus is
fucking
on Randy
play the
here.
game already, so I
Do
go
you
lower.
Go for it at this moment.
I don't have to do
with
shit.
the Rune Chance, with the Felling, with the Bramble Spark.
Doesn't look too happy about it. He's passing back again.
Fascinating, doesn't go for it. And now the Fruits of the Forest able to come through for 7. Block for 3.
7. 9. Sorry,
Majin
8.
said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a match.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got
Randy just passes over. Majin says that's okay. Pass back to Randy. Now we're back to the stalemate. Randy has to take some game actions here. He's down with less life.
Everbloom life gonna gain 1 and put a 0 cost
to 11.
to the bottom of his deck. Probably another Everbloom.
Oh no, that was Rinseeds. My bad. Okay, yeah. No, you're good. So both modes, 11. 11, 13.
11-13. And move to end. Draw up. What is Majin gonna do?
I think he
Have
might pass.
you ever seen homework for everybody at home? There's a particularly famous match of flesh and blood from, I believe, the 2022 Australian National Championships. Do you know what happened in the finals of that tournament, Sam?
Was that Hayden Dale?
That was Hayden
yeah,
Dale.
Yeah.
An Oldhim versus Viserai game where Oldhim did nothing but sit there and gain life, never attacking his opponent, and Viserai sat there and did nothing but make Rune Chance and pass, and this feels like a new age, a Rosetta-flavored recreation of that game.
And look at this, Condemned to Rune Chant going to break a Rune Chant.
To destroy Ring of Roses, the only aura that Majin Bey controls.
Take a game action.
Technically a game action.
Move the game forward. Majin passes again because now that Majin sits at higher life, it's on Randy to progress. If Randy creates the stalemate, Majin has higher life and Randy concedes the game.
I will say I don't envy their position as casters here to try and make a game
Randy
of
says,
nothing
"All right,
exciting.
I'm trying something. Let's find out what it is."
Looks like an enlightened strike into felling of the crown is what his hand says to me.
With the Rune Chance, it's so
I don't think
much
I could do it.
damage.
I want to be
The
honest, I don't think I
Rampant
could do it.
Growths, have they come back around?
He has one in arsenal.
I don't think I
He's
could
striking.
manage the running commentary
again.
for this long of nothing
5
happening.
Arcane on the back end. This threatens to leave Majin at just 3, and if he doesn't block correctly here, he's going to get blown out by that felling of the crown, making it almost impossible for him to survive the massive attack that strips cards before you get the opportunity to defend.
Only one Rampant Growth, but most likely one in the arsenal.
Holding on to 1. He needs at least 2, I imagine, to make this turn undeniable, taking all 10.
Taking all 10. Down to 3.
This is it.
And the felling.
This is the apex of this game.
And-
What is Majin tucking?
Is this the moment?
I think this is it, Sam.
Has Majin done it? Has Majin put himself in a position?
I think he has it. All he has to do is block after putting a card from hand on the bottom of the deck. Block with Emeritus Scolding and Scour. He can also shove Barkskin to the Millennium Tree, but I think he'll want to go to 1 to give himself enough room to gain life as possible, and then it's time to take a sip. He's gonna drink through.
Yeah, because he can just put all the amp on his stick, cracking the E-pot to do it. So assuming this is a ramp, we're looking at 9 amp just from that. So this will come in for 10. Ideally, we would like something else. So like 1 source of life gain here.
Through all of those potions rapidly with a rampant growth in arsenal.
Because this will block for 6. We'll go to 1. Keeping 2 cards, right? I guess keeping 1 card is even fine.
And 1 in hand. All he needs is a Verdance trigger on the stack with which to respond with rampant growth.
So it looks like Randy was really looking for that go again. He was waiting for that E-strike to go as wide as possible.
Even better of a line than what I saw here. Blocking with a Scour and a Barkskin of the Millennium Tree. He's covering 6, just like if he blocked with 2 cards from hand. Going down to 1 and preserving a blue to pay for Plume. He has set up the triple rampant win condition, Sam.
Majin said, I don't think I'm passing this time. Going to the
I guess he needs
ambulance
more
here.
than that. Because opponent not only has AB, but he could have prevention here.
10 out of 10, baby. 10 out of 10. He's one of the masters of our game for a reason. Verdant's trigger on the stack.
Energy potion being cracked, it looks like, or just being slightly adjusted. Randy taking 1 down to 10.
Down to 10 he goes.
Into decline the Verdant's trigger, not wanting to let his opponent make this any more awkward for him.
Declining all the Verdant's triggers here.
Going up to 9. 8 life gained on the turn. This is it. Win or lose. I believe this is going to be one of the final turns of this game of Flesh and Blood. This is the climax of this Verdant Virtuoso's game.
I'm at 10. I have 9.
Goes up to 10. Now no longer can gain the life.
Not
but
true. He can gain one
more life because they are at even life totals. Figuring out the Verdant's trigger here if he wants to decline. Looks like decline the trigger.
A second rampant growth has hit the table.
Now can gain the 1 life, go to 11. Now Reaping Blade. Blade is active. Here comes the trigger.
These haven't resolved yet.
Life gain trigger, dealing 1 to Randy on the stack. Now both rampant growths are likely to resolve here.
I'll let them both resolve.
So they both resolve.
Amp 10,
Amping.
Amp 10 up to Amp 20.
Activating the Plume.
You're at 11. Because you took the ping. It was 10-10. I gained 1 to 11. Got it. Okay, yeah.
Yep, there we go. Figuring it out. Uses the final blue in the hand. Grab the final rampant growth.
He can't gain life here to produce a ping, but energy growth, energy potion has his back, utilizing the rampant growth, amping 30.
Kaboom.
For 31 on the biggest surge in Aethertide you've seen in your entire life.
I don't think you will be able to AB that.
Gain life. Play the Seeds of Tomorrow, but that's gonna do it. Majin Bey, the master of Arcane, waited,
All right.
watched,
I'm gonna go do food.
and took
We'll
down
finish
the
up top
game.
8
Figuring
tomorrow
out the perfect line,
and
the
do some more
only
sorting tomorrow.
option.
Thank you so much for
And
watching.
at the end of
We'll
all
see you guys.